What is up, everybody? It's more of the world's worst event. I'm gonna be so glad when this is over, but you know, it might be a minute, and then I gotta do it on the ult account and all that nonsense. It's funny, over these last few days, I've been more and more tempted to play NA, and then all my friends are like, "Oh God, what's wrong with you?" But it's just like, you know, nothing makes NA look better than JP shitting a brick, right? And that there's been a lot of that lately. I cannot believe we went so long without any new content in FGO, and like the last event didn't have a challenge quest or anything, and it was pretty bare bones. And then it's like, this is what we get. I don't even. Let's throw a summon ticket at not Virgil. I swear to God, if I get another Honako, I'm gonna be mad. Yeah, hopefully the main story soon, but well, that's disappointing. Actually, a decent 3-star CE in very specific context, though. Yeah, fitting music in it, right? Bet we didn't get him. But, oh God, what do I even need on this account? I mean, really, I just need a CE drop. I don't give a fuck about most of this event. I just need a CE drop on this account. We'll do this. Yeah, these make like the nodes better. Auto collect nonsense. But yeah, so on Discord last night, chat was talking about like just stupid shit like Edmund versus Achilles and nonsense like that, and somehow it got brought up because they're just talking like OP nonsense. Got brought up, who's the strongest female servant, and we were trying to figure that out, and we didn't really get anywhere. And I just felt like we were forgetting a million things, like, and we kind of made the caveat that it has to be like a normal servant, right? No, like, oh, the moon cell's buffing me, or I'm only summonable because of this, or like, you know, the grail's juicing me up and making me way stronger. Yeah, you need a drop. It's pretty dumb. And we didn't really decide on anything, and like the best we had was like Scath, Canis, and like Quetz, or it's probably one of those. But I feel like we were forgetting, and like Zealot actually from Fate Strange Fake, but like I think we were forgetting like a million things. And that's why I was thinking of Anastasia, because I don't remember her lore kit very well. But I was actually thinking about it. I don't think Scath counts, because you can't actually summon Scath normally. Like you can't summon her, you can summon her in the Moon Cell, but that doesn't count. And you normally can't summon her unless the Land of Shadows is blown up. And then like FGO really implies that once this whole ordeal is over, she's not summonable anymore. But that's like the best I got. But I feel like I'm forgetting like a million OP things. Hey Zaw, what's up, man? Alright, hold on. Let me think like 2 seconds here. I'm gonna farm something for the CE drop. What do I want it to be? That's not too bad. I actually need those. One of these stages drops Void Dust. I literally went down to 0 Void Dust. Yeah, like, it's the thing about Canis, I think Canis probably is the strongest right now, but because she doesn't have a character material book, I really think she's going to get nerfed. Like, if you look at what they say in the story and what's in her bio, she is absolutely bullshit overpowered. And I'm like, they are surely going to add a caveat to something here to make her weaker. Because, like, if you read her bio, it's like she's immune to every, like, she can't take damage unless you're blessed by, you know, Water God of some sort. You know, that's absurd. You know, she's got an EX ranked, you know, like Excalibur Blast type thing. She's got the bird nonsense. If she's summoned long enough, she turns into a literal god. Like, it's ridiculous. That's rare to get that high, Ari. Yeah, I'm hoping, I don't know, man, I've lost a lot of faith in Lost Belt 6. Between the trailer and just what they've been saying, I'm like, because they keep saying, they've said this multiple times now in interviews, that people are going to be so surprised at what's in Lost Belt 6. They keep saying that. As far as I'm aware, you have to have a weapon, or you yourself have to be blessed by some kind of water god. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. Anyway, but they keep saying, you know, oh, people are never going to expect what's in Lost Belt 6, right? And that makes me annoyed, because what everyone expects in Lost Belt 6 is Camelot stuff, right? And if they're saying, oh, no one's going to guess this shit, that probably means it's, you know, like America, where it's like, oh look, it's actually the Irish invasion in America, right? So I'm kind of worried we're gonna get a bunch of nonsense that has nothing to do with Camelot at all, and I'm not gonna care for it. So Masashi probably is legitimately coming back, but I don't think it would be then. I just want Sir K, man. Just give me Sir K. I'll throw like 1,000 SQ at that. Like, I want a reason to go nuts, and that's one reason I don't feel too bad about rolling for, not Virgil, but like, I want to go nuts because then I'll get CEs and spooks, and I might get, Space Britain, indeed. We might get, like, I might get, you know, Hercules or something if I roll right, that's what I'm getting at, but, yeah, some people think they're just gonna focus more on, like, older, you know, stuff in the region and whatnot, but we'll see. I'm so annoyed of them constantly, like, beating around the bush with Camelot. We never actually get to see Camelot, like, the actual history where, like, Artoria comes from and everything. They always, you know, they act like it's gonna be a thing, but then it's not. You know, it's never really been shown clearly in any of the works. And then in FGO, they did the Camelot singularity, but oh lol, it's not actually Camelot, it's actually, like, Jerusalem and meets Egypt meets, you know, even more nonsense, right? And then it wasn't even the Camelot from, you know, the regular timeline, it's some alternate, you know, different world nonsense. And then this looks like it's not, you know, it's probably, I just don't think this is going to be like a singularity that has much to do with Camelot. I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, I think there's going to be at least one Night of the Round there, but that might be it. Yeah, I want Vortigern pretty bad. Vortigern, Sir K, Agravain, those kinds of things. Maybe we get. You know what would be cool, Ari, is if the movie actually showed maybe at least flashbacks or something to show like the Camelot Zero stuff, right? So you get to see like Percival and Sir K and all that stuff, and they were summoned there, and then that gets them to put them in the fucking game, right? Like maybe we get. You know, I know they're so lazy with the tie-ins. But maybe we get that, and then we finally get Agravain, and we finally get Sir K. Because I mean, you've had designs and voice actors and everything forever, and they're just like, nah. 3-star Agravain? Probably not, because Agravain's pretty famous, and he's said to be quite, you know, crafty and powerful in the stories he's been in, so I don't think they'd make him a 3-star. Although they've made some pretty weird things 3 stars, just cause. So who knows? Limited or story locked. I mean, if they come out with a banner, you know, that's not connected to a main story, they're not going to be story locked, right? They can't story lock. Like, if they do like a movie tie-in, that's not going to be story locked. Now, it could be limited, obviously, but the only way I would see Sir K or Agravain being story locked is if they add them with like the Camelot singularity coming up, right? I don't see Agravain being a quick support. I don't see that. I think he's gonna be an assassin, most likely. But yeah, I don't see him being a quick support. I doubt that. But you never know. He did like buff the one dude, but they weren't that great. So I got oh god, bad memories. So I at the time had about 2,100 SQ, right? And I used one summon ticket and I got him, right? And at the time I wasn't even planning on doing any more than that. I literally just like, oh, one summon ticket, let's go, and then boom, I got him. I was like, oh, okay, well that was easy. And then later I decided, you know what, I like him a lot, he's cool, and his voice actor is good, and I like his gameplay, so I'm gonna go for NP2. And I'm like, I got him NP1 for free, basically, right? So I'm basically just rolling for NP1. You know, surely this couldn't go badly. And I got Himiko twice first, of course, because, you know, the second I got him, I was gonna stop rolling, but I got Himiko twice, which wasn't too happy about that. I have never gotten so many CEs in my life. I limit broke the 5-star CE twice, right? I limit broke the 4-star CE like once at least, and then I got spooked by Pinth and Valkyrie, which at least I liked them, but that was ridiculous. So yeah, it took about, you know, 400, 500 SQ to actually get one copy of him. And in that time, I got like a million other things that were stupid. So that kind of hurt. Because again, you know, if I spent like 400, 500 SQ to get in P2, that's like, yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little bad, but it was basically getting in P1, right? So that was awful. Like that sucked so bad. That's why. So yeah, I went from like 2,100, and then I went down to like 1,000, 680 or whatever. But we've gotten some more SQs since then. But yeah, it was pretty shit. The event really isn't easy to farm, though. Oh, at least the event is easier to farm, alright, because of the CEs, right? But yeah, let's say this event is not really easy to farm because it's, like, really tedious with the units you need to bring. I'm assuming all the stages have the same drop for, the CE. So I'm gonna do this one, so maybe I get some Void Dust. And then bring people that boost Clay. I hate when I have to stream and, like, I don't get to do fun things, but it's like, the way this event is, it's like... What drops here? Gold and bronze. Oh, that has bronze. Good enough. Okay, Mash has Clay. I think Himiko has everything. He has everything. Okay, I gotta bring Ku just because Bond. Boy, this is not gonna be a very good team for actually beating this quickly. Does he give? He doesn't give bonus drop to Clay though, so I shouldn't bring him. Who else does? Okay, no, that's not a bonus servant. I wish it was. God, she gives Clay. That's not. Saito's mats aren't that bad for me though. I mean, he uses a lot of stuff that I wish I didn't have to use, but most of those I have for the most part. But they are, a lot of things that you would not want to have to use. Surely someone else has bonus drop to Clay. I think it's just Assassins. It's Assassins and Mash. See, everyone is so pissed about the stakes. The stakes don't hurt me, like at all, because I never level anyone that uses stakes. So I have so many. Oh, does she give it? She's not. She's neutral too, though. So if anything, Okita is probably better. Yeah, I guess we go with Okita. Fuck. This is gonna be This is such a bad team for farming this stage. But I'm obsessed with drop rate to AP ratio. So. I'm actually being less meta than normal though, because I'm bringing Ku, and Ku's not meta for farming here. But I gotta get my Ku bond, right? This is important. You know what? I guess VR Mash is fine. We can see red press red. You know, I don't really care about leveling MCs anymore. I'm finally at that point on my main account. There's no Mystic Codes worth leveling anymore. None. So I can just bring whatever the fuck I want for farming. I have like no stakes in either account, feels bad. Yeah, I know some people get super wrecked by stakes. Because there's a lot of people that use a very large number of them, right? Like, there's less units in the game that use stakes than other bronze mats, but there's a lot of people that do use stakes that use such a large amount. That's pretty nasty. The proofs hurt, though. The proofs hurt. Never do I see proofs and I'm like, oh yeah, this'll be great. I guess I'm fortunate that I didn't get Hot Wheels back in the day. I'm so salty about that though, because not only did I like Hot Wheels then, but I like Hot Wheels even more now. So it's really sucks that I didn't get them when I had a pretty good shot at it too, because I rolled a good bit for Asclepius. One nice thing I can say about this event is you automatically get some Void Dust from time to time. You know, that's kind of nice, because Void Dust is the ultimate killer, generally. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that hasn't changed. That if you take all the servants in the game, you need the most void dust out of any mat. And I don't think it ever will change, because it's like statistically, it's almost impossible for that to change, because lots of old servants obviously need void dust, and that's never going to change. It's not like their mats are going to mutate. And the new servants are just as likely to use void dust as some newer mats that didn't exist for all those original servants, right? So void dust is like universally just awful, because as time goes on, you're going to roughly see the same amount of every mat added to the game. So there'll be some variance. But then because the core set of servants use more void dust than anything, it's always going to be a problem. And generally new mats end up being the easiest because of that. It's just you don't have them stocked up ahead of time. I don't know why this song is so fucking loud. Like, it's been on this forever, and it's always so fucking loud. Like, I don't know. I've tried to fix it, but it just doesn't work. So I've not been paying attention to what I've been doing at all, but I see Okita's about to die, and I think did I NP with Okita without using her skills? I think that's what I just did. I legit was not paying attention, but I'm pretty sure that's what just happened, because everything's low in health, but nothing is dead. So that's about the only way that would happen. I just wish these Nobus weren't CGI, but yeah, the sound effects are pretty great. I actually need to record that sound effect that voice line's on, because I have uses of that. So, I've seen a lot of people that, because of the Babylon anime, legitimately think Quetz is the strongest servant, like, period, and I'm just like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Now, I mean, she is really powerful, don't get me wrong, but, that is just so silly. Like, first of all, even in the anime context, that's not right, and then, obviously, in the actual story, it's not like that. And even in, like I said, with the context of the anime, it's still, that's by no means the best feat we've ever seen a servant do, like, not even close. Everyone thinks her NP is basically the strongest thing ever conceived, for some reason. It's funny, because that attack in the actual story does not even phase Tiamat, does not even hurt her, nothing happens. Like, that scene is literally there to show like how overpowered Tiamat is, basically. Yeah, that doesn't happen in the actual story either. But Enkidu, or I'm sorry, Kingu never really tried that hard to use the Chains of Heaven on her. Like, and that whole thing exists because that's like FGO storytelling not making any sense, because in the actual game nothing really happens, they don't explain the fighting. And obviously in any real serious context, if Kingu or Enkidu is fighting someone with that much divinity, it's such an easy fight for them. Like, it's a joke, right? But the story can't have such a one-sided thing happen, right? So it just doesn't. It's like, oh, I just dodged it, right? It's just plot armor. It's like, that's how it goes. They removed so much stuff with Tiamat. It really annoys me. They actually like really butchered her characterization. And I will say the game and like the Babylon story in the game, it was such an exposition dump where they kind of explain Tiamat, you know, like her actual will doesn't want to, you know, do all this nonsense and whatnot. But the fact that they didn't find any way to even hint at that, even in a subtle way, was pretty lame. They literally just cut all of it and they just wreck Tiamat's characterization, and she just seems like a brainless monster that's evil. It's like, okay, great. I tell you though, the Babylon anime is so popular. It did like really well. I have mixed feelings about it. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, the animation is so good. It wasn't really, I didn't think, it was okay, but I really was not blown away by the animation in the in the Babylon anime. Like, it was alright. It definitely wasn't like, you know, a lot of anime where I'm like, oh my god, they're phoning it in so hard, or it's rushed, or whatever, right? Like, it wasn't like that, but it definitely wasn't like, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, they made a lot of changes that were kind of dumb. Like, you know, removing... If you watched it, you wouldn't even know what Benkei's Zenpi was. I don't know what's gonna happen with the Camelot movie. We'll see. I'm really worried because it's being made by two different studios. That's one. It's just so bizarre. I don't understand. Right? Like, it's really bizarre. And then that's not generally a good sign. I think they're doing it because they want the two movies to roll out, I guess, faster. Either that or the original studio didn't want to do all that work. I don't know. Well, I was not expecting them to do animation updates right away, because it's not really feasible for that to happen, right? Like, because, you know, animation doesn't take a while, you know, low effort or high effort, it's going to take a while. You need time to do that in advance, and they didn't really know what was going to happen in the anime in advance, and then you can't just, like, you can't just suddenly start working on the animation updates and drop everything else, and you got to follow the pipeline, right? So obviously it was going to take a while, but it's pretty obvious at this point that they didn't even put it in the pipeline, right? Like, let's say they didn't do any work on Ushi and Leonidas and all that until their episodes aired, and then they put it at the back of the list, right? Literally at the very back of the list. Like, everything else we already have planned, we're doing all this first, and then, you know, when we get down the line, then we'll do these animation updates, right? So that's like worst case scenario, right? But they clearly didn't even do that, because it's been so much time now that even if they had done that, they would have gotten around to it by now. So that tells me that it hasn't even crossed their minds yet. But yeah, they gave Merlin and Ishtar one. Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, well, the thing is, they never explained how Ushi works in the anime, so they don't need to explain how they need to get rid of her like that, right? So that was kind of the thing. They never really mentioned her being like that in the anime. So they don't really need Benkei's NP to get rid of her, which is why they did that. But that's really lame because, I mean, like, why wouldn't Benkei use his NP? Also, why do you have a servant that never uses their NP ever, even though they're trying to give them a big dramatic moment, right? Like, I think it really just boils down to Benkei's not very popular, so they'd rather give him a side role like that. And they wanted to hype up Quetz more, because Quetz has definitely gotten significantly more popular since the anime. So I think they just wanted to give her a hype moment, and they thought, like, what actually happens to her in the story, you know, makes her look bad, you know, because she kind of gets nothing done against Tiamat, and that's that. But I think it's pretty lame to, like, because Benkei obviously, you know, has story connections and what, you know, to Ushi, right? Like, their whole character arc there is connected. So, like, having him just play such a side role like that, and then removing, like, what he actually does, and then not having that fight scene with him earlier, and everything, it's just really lame. They also got rid of Gilgamesh's spiel when he kills Tiamat, which also gives a lot of insight to what the fuck is going on, so... There's a lot of... And then for some reason they gave Aya the loudest bass drop of all time. Like, almost all the NPs in Babylon, they had these really big, you know, bass drop nonsense going on, right? Like, all of them. But they made Aya's so loud. Like, what the hell was that? People complain about APOC sound effects, but they don't really bother me that much. That bothered me. That was so fucking loud and annoying. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, again, they did that with, like, every goddamn NP, but they did it, like, just such a ridiculous level with Aya. Like, what the fuck? By the way, I just found out last night that the universe that Tolkien made for, like, Lord of the Rings, you know, in his mythology that he made is called Aya. So that's kind of, which, you know, I guess that's a reference to what Aya is a reference to as well, but that's just kind of funny. Louder is stronger, yeah, clearly. Honestly, to a degree, that probably is, yeah, they were trying to emphasize, like, just how strong the blast was, and they're like, how do we do that? Make it really loud. Make it louder than anything anyone has ever heard. like, that does kind of seem like what they were doing, which is pretty stupid. Like, never mind doing visual stuff or, you know, any of that, just really loud bass drop. I've always said, though, I actually like the mythology and everything that Tolkien made way more than Lord of the Rings. Like, the mythology surrounding it and that kind of stuff is way better. And it's weird because Lord of the Rings is, like, bizarrely, like, black and white. You know, good guy versus bad guy and stuff. But then, like, the mythology and stuff has a lot more grayness to it. And then, like, it's just a lot more interesting, right? But where the like, little pocket of Lord of the Rings is just, like really fucking generic in terms of, like, its, you know, character motivation, especially with the villains. And it's weird because, from what I understand, like, in the greater scheme of things, Sauron doesn't even, like, see himself as a bad guy. He basically thinks, you know, God is neglecting everything, and so there's all this chaos, and he's trying to bring order to it, right? Because he basically thinks the parents are neglecting their creation, which they are, by the way. That's kind of interesting, right? It's like, okay, that's kind of neat, right? But but what you see of him in Lord of the Rings, he's just this generic, I am bad, right? And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, Tiamat is obviously not at full strength when she gets blasted by Aya, but also Gil's not using Aya at full power. So it's like, we don't know what would happen if he used a maximum, you know, all the juice Aya against Tiamat. We don't really know what would happen, but, you know, so it's debatable if it would work or not. But I've always said, even if it worked, it would not help because you would, like, blow up everything. Like, guys, I stopped Tiamat and I killed everyone. Yeah, it's like, Tiamat can't kill us if we're already dead, forehead, right? It's like, it's, you know, it doesn't make any fucking sense, because, like, what they've described of Aya and other works and, like, how powerful it can get, that will absolutely kill everyone, like, easily, right? So that's not helping, and Aya's strong and everything, but there's no world where, like, Gil could do, like, a more contained, you know, Aya and have that still kill Tiamat. There's no way. Like, that's just not believable, what we've seen of Tiamat. So it's like, any chance, because again, even Aya at full strength, we don't know if it'd work or not. I think it probably would, when you look into what Aya does when it's at full power, but, you know, you would surely have to use it at that level, right? And then that's just gonna run everything, so it's not very feasible. There's no practical scenario where Gil would have any way of beating Tiamat, like, mano a mano, like, no way. Because, you know, first of all, without the underworld and all this stuff, she's stronger. You know, and then any way to kill her would involve, like, blowing up the fucking planet, so, you know, good luck with that one. Well, yeah, it's true that the book series Lord of the Rings definitely, but the thing is, like, even the book series of Lord of the Rings, it's really black and white with, you know, orcs bad, you know, elves good, and blah 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 blah. And it's weird though, because Tolkien even said he wanted to, like, demonstrate more grayness. But he, like, never found the space to do it. Like, he said he wanted to show some orcs that were good, right? Like, he didn't want them to just be this universally evil race, and he actually intended on putting that in the books, but he said he never found the right time to do it. So, like, they exist, but they were never shown, right? So there's just a lot of, it's just, Lord of the Rings is just so black and white to the point of it being kind of comical. But then, like, you know, his expanded, you know, mythos and everything, I think, is a lot better. Like, a lot better. Because he basically took, like, Greek mythology and fused it with Christian stuff, right? Because what his god, which is, I forget the name of, like, Elu or something, you know, it's very much like the Christian god, and, like, his relation with Morgoth is a lot like, you know, Lucifer, right? But then he had, like, the gods that he made, which kind of, you know, handle things on a more management level. They're a lot like the Greek pantheon and stuff. All that stuff's pretty neat, and you got all this stuff where, like, God, I don't know Tolkien's work well enough. The angel spirit shits, right? You know, that Sauron's one of those, and Gandalf's one of those, and the Balrogs are one of those, so they're actually, like, equal in power, but, like, the way they manifest is different, and, because, like, the wizards can't, like, use their full forms and everything. All that stuff's neat and shit, but, you know, you don't get any of that in Lord of the Rings. You don't get any of it. Hey, Looking Glass, thank you for the 140 bits, excuse me. Actually, I suspect Tiamat would be stronger if she wasn't a beast. Like, if you had true, full Tiamat, and I think a lot of what they have said about her implies that. Because, they straight up say she's a primordial goddess, not a regular goddess, and they straight up say primordial gods and goddesses are just way stronger than you know, regular deities. So she's already right. Just that alone puts her, you know, in a 1v1 scenario ahead of like Zeus and all of that stuff, right? That already makes her ludicrously powerful. And then like you know, it took all of the gods, you know, of their mythology and stuff to beat her. You know, all of them. It took like all of humanity and all of the gods and all of them stuff to work together to beat her. You know, none of them could have even come close to beating her one-on-one. So like, how that's just nuts. I mean, she is crazy. Like, I really stand by this. Right now, there's a few ifs and ors, right? So kind of because we don't have good ways to measure like types, you know, the ultimate ones and stuff. But like right now, I think Tiamat is the strongest thing we've seen in the Nasuverse, pretty much. Like that's like that you can actually like, aside from things that are like, you know, boogeymen that they don't really talk about or explain or anything. In terms of things that we could actually seen and know stuff about, I think Tiamat is pretty much the strongest thing we've seen. And honestly, I think the next strongest thing is, and potentially stronger, we don't know enough about him, but is Chaos. Because I was looking into everything they said about Chaos, and they specifically say Chaos is also considered a primordial being like Tiamat, and so he is way fucking stronger than all the other gods and that kind of thing. And then like what little they've explained of Chaos, he's pretty ridiculous. So the one issue with Tiamat though is if she's not, you know, near Earth, she's not as strong. And so I guess in some ways you could say maybe Chaos is stronger, but basically says Tiamat basically bound herself to try to prevent herself from, you know, ruining, because she doesn't actually have control over like the beast system, and she doesn't really have control over herself like that, and so she was trying to prevent herself from murdering everyone. No. Why do people always say this about Grands? I don't understand. You need 7 Grands to beat one beast, generally. Like, the Grand system was made to fight the beasts, and it would normally, like in an ideal scenario, if a beast showed up, the world would try to summon the 7 Grands to fight the beast. No single Grand is capable of beating, I don't think, any of the beasts right now. Now, some of the beasts are weaker than others and whatnot, but none of the Grands are capable of beating a beast mano a mano. The only exception to that might be Beast 3, because Beast 3 is so borked. But it's not supposed to be like that. Like, just like with Grands, how different people can fill the role as a Grand, right? Like, there's no, I gotta explain this for the millionth time, but this is obvious, this is a thing again. There's no such thing as like the Grand Saber, right? It's not like, oh, you know, I'm gonna make up a bullshit name here. Genghis Khan. There's no reason for Genghis Khan to be the Grand Saber. But let's say Genghis Khan could be the Grand Saber. It's not like Genghis Khan is just inherently the Grand Saber all the time, and anytime he gets summoned, he's a Grand. It's not like that. There's just heroic spirits, you know, just like always, and certain heroic spirits meet the criteria to be summoned as a Grand. And then if they get summoned as a Grand, they get to be stronger. But if they get summoned as like a regular servant, by, you know, like a counter force, or in a Grail War or whatever, they're just a regular assassin or a regular saber or whatever. You know, there's no, I am the Grand, right? That's not a thing. And yeah, you need generally 7 Grands to beat one beast. I would imagine those 7 Grands are actually overkill to beat one beast. It's like 7 Grands is the sure we're gonna win button, right? You get, it's not the, oh, we're even, right? But so you could, you know, potentially do it with 6 or 5 or whatever, but you need multiple Grands to generally beat a beast. None of the, what we've seen of anyone that's ever been summoned as a Grand is, you know, they're not even close to the level of a beast. Like, no way. They're not supposed to be. I don't know why, I gotta say, because everyone thinks, like, ironically, because Natsu literally talked about this in a really recent interview, there only is one Grand Assassin right now. Like Natsu says, you know, there are many candidates for, because he straight up said there's many candidates that can fill the role of a Grand, you know, and they get summoned based on, you know, what the world needs in the area and stuff. Like if you're in Rome, it's gonna look for a candidate to fit a Grand that happens to be from Rome. It's gonna try to do that, you know, just like it does with like rulers and stuff. But he says right now there's only one candidate that fits, because there's all these requirements to meet the bill, right? And whatever the requirements are to be a Grand Assassin, right now only one servant meets, and that's Gramps. But he said that's the only class like that right now that only has the one candidate. So there kind of is one Grand Assassin, but it's not like if you summon Grandpa in a Grail War, he's not going to be a Grand Assassin. He's just going to be an assassin, right? It's just that, you know, in the context of if a Grand Assassin is going to be summoned, it would be Gramps, because he's the only one that meets the criteria right now. But apparently he doesn't meet the criteria anymore, and so there is no Grand Assassin right now. That's what pretty much what Nasu said, is like right now there's No one can fill the role right now. So I'm just, because he said that, I think obviously someone's going to, right? Some servant is going to do some crazy shit and like change their saint graph, and then they'll meet the requirement. Or our dumbass will turn into a servant, and you know we'll be the Grand Assassin, or Mash will, or you know whatever. Like something's going to happen, and somebody for some reason is going to you know meet the requirements to be the Grand Assassin. So. But no, the Grands are not even in the running for being stronger than me. Like for real, you know, like Romulus. Romulus actually normally, straight up says this, Romulus normally does not even meet the requirement to be a Grand Lancer. You normally just be, he doesn't have whatever the requirement is, right? But because of the very specific circumstances that go on in Lost Belt 5, he can be summoned as the Grand Lancer there, but probably never will be again. Like that was a specific thing. Someone else would probably fill the role most of the time. But you know, Romulus in Lost Belt 5 is really powerful, but I mean, even he's not as powerful as Zeus, and Zeus is certainly not as powerful as most of the beasts that we've seen. Yeah, I don't know why people have this idea that Gramps is like this unbelievable. I swear it's like a word of mouth thing. It's people keep saying he's ludicrously overpowered, so everyone acts like he is, but like he has a character material book. We've seen what he can do, and he is really powerful, but it's like he's by no means like the strongest thing we've ever seen, like not even close, like not even remotely close. Like if Gramps tried to fight Tiamat head on, he would get absolutely destroyed, especially if he was on Earth. Honestly, I'm not sure we know of anything right now that would actually be able to beat Tiamat, like 1v1 me bra. Like, I'm not sure anyone really can do that right now. Now, like I said, with types and stuff, you know, it's kind of unclear how strong they are and how that would work, so, you know, who knows that. We'll probably find out more, because it's pretty obvious Orc is finally going to be used in something. I can beat Tiamat, yeah, clearly. You know, Buddha is OP as, oh yeah, maybe Abzu, sure, but, you know, that, you know, he's not actually, you know, he's only been talked about, not shown, and he would never try to kill Tiamat. That's his waifu, so, I mean, that's not gonna happen. But, as powerful as Buddha is, like, he really is nuts. I don't, that's one of the few times I would say I don't think his NP would work, but, you know, you never know. But it's, you know, because it is from human history and all that stuff. Yeah, Edo Ida might work, but hard to say. Well, the thing is, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do because, like, Fuma's existed since forever, right? So so apparently he doesn't, you know, meet the requirements. Because, like, you know, Merlin meets the requirements to be Grand Caster. Castigal probably does. Solomon did, and there's probably several other ones that, you know, meet the requirements. Right, but I mean, Nasu just straight up said no one meets the requirement to be Grand Assassin right now. So it's not like Fuma's would change, right? Fuma's been a heroic spirit this whole time. You know, whatever Fuma's strongest form is, it's existed this whole time, right? And so it clearly doesn't, because it's not about strength, right? Being a Grand isn't about, oh, I'm really strong in this criteria. It's about meeting specific requirements, right? You can be as strong as all hell, and you don't meet the right requirements, right? You can be a crazy strong caster, but if you don't have clairvoyance, you can't be the Grand Caster, right? So whatever the requirement is for Grand Assassin, nobody's got it anymore. Which is weird, because there's so many assassins out there that it's bizarre to me that Nasu would say that there's not even one that... that's why, though, because they actually mention that. They mention Medea. They kind of, in several of the stories, they kind of give passing dialogue to try to, like, quickly justify why Medea can't qualify to be Grand Caster, because, you know, her magic actually predates Solomon's and stuff. And they basically, you know, just say, you know, she just doesn't meet the requirement. Like, it's not, you know, it's not a matter of how good of a caster she is. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I can't imagine what the... Because I feel like anything, whatever the requirement could be, there should be other assassins out there that meet the requirement. And I don't see how someone new could suddenly meet the requirement where like other things in the past haven't. And as such, I wouldn't be surprised if they never tell us what that requirement is, because they generally don't tell us the requirements, because they're really aware that like if they ever give away all the requirements to be a Grand, it's gonna unintentionally retroactively fit a lot of things that they don't want it to fit. So I you know, overwhelmingly, I don't think they're ever going to tell you every requirement for any of the classes, because they'll be like, whoops. The thing is, that's just the Grail War. That's nothing to do with being an assassin. Because the Grail War system is a man-made thing, right? And a restriction, like, you know, it doesn't mean there aren't, because obviously, as we've seen, there's other heroic spirits that meet the assassin class. They just couldn't normally be summoned into a Grail War because of the rules, you know, imposed on the Grail system. It's not because they don't exist as a heroic spirit and that they can't be an assassin. It's that the man-made, you know, Grail War doesn't allow them to be summoned normally, right? It's not, you know, if you found a way to summon a heroic spirit independent of the, you know, the bullshit Grail system, you'd be able to summon them anyway. Like, yeah, they tried to prevent, you know, anti-heroes and evil people being summoned because they thought they would, you know, cause too much trouble. And, you know, because the whole point of the Grail War was to just get the servants to kill each other like honor bros and then use their mana to get to the root, right? So they put all these restrictions and stuff in the system to try to make sure they summoned people that would, you know, play ball, if you will. And things went wrong when, you know, the Einspurns, you know, mess with the ritual and, you know, some Angra and all that nonsense. Yeah, the Fuyuki system, specifically, is just set up that way. But it doesn't mean there aren't other assassins out there, and that has nothing to do with the Grand system. So, honestly, I just think it's really weird. Like, I don't think it's really well thought out. But for some fucking reason, only Gramps, because, you know, what could it, like, what, be the first assassin? He's not actually the first assassin anyway. You know, we have all kinds of legends that go way back that, you know, you have, you know, really old assassins and whatnot in it. So it's like, it just doesn't really make any sense. I feel like they're just trying to save it for some dramatic nonsense. And honestly, I think a lot of stuff with Grands, they've just kind of made up as they go. Like, I don't think they had much, because they weren't planning on FGO being this successful and going on this long and that kind of thing. And they've always danced around Grands so much, and obviously they're like the namesake of the game, but like, I don't think they really ever, like, before the game started, it wasn't like they sat down and like, okay, let's think of all this Grand servants and how this works and, you know, how it fits into everything, and then we'll just reveal this slowly over time. I don't think that's what they did. I think they just had a vague idea, and they've been filling in the blanks as they go. Like, that's very much how it seems. Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many things older than... But like, some things, you know, we don't even know, like, what the origin of species is and whatnot. I mean, they never actually said who Gramps is, but we know about that, like, that order of, you know, nut jobs. I doubt we'll ever get a Zokin servant. I mean, they already had a chance to do that in London and they didn't. So, I mean, I don't see why. No one asks for that. Like, I mean, maybe, you never know. They do some pretty weird, you know, pseudo servants and shit. So maybe someday, but I wouldn't think so. Oh yeah, Semiramis. Yeah, no joke actually, Ari. I actually agree with that. Semiramis is nuts. Now, she does need a lot of prep time and stuff to make, like in some scenarios she'll be summoned, she's never gonna have the time to complete Gardens of Babylon, right? But if she does, yeah, she's pretty nuts. Like, I can't think of, because, like, you know, Mordred fights her, but Mordred gets a freebie and like just gets inside the palace and stuff for free and everything, right? So like, if it's literally all of Semiramis' attention versus one person, right? That's pretty hard to deal with. Like, not a lot of things are going to be able to deal with that at all. So yeah, actually, she's definitely up there. Like, I definitely think it's like Scath if you count her. Scath's kind of hard to count though because she really can't be summoned normally. But Scath's really up there. The Canis is up there. Semiramis is up there. Quetz is up there. And I really think Zealot's up there because Zealot has just such insane variety in like her abilities. Like, she's got so much flexibility with all the different noble phantasms. A lot of people said they just straight up thought it was Scath, but I really don't. I mean, Scath is really strong, but like Scath has some drawbacks, like when compared to Ku, and has some positives compared to Ku. But like her pure destructive force is well behind a lot of the other like big boy servants. And her NP is just, you know, B plus, which is good, but like, you know, it's not like, oh my god, I'm blowing up the world. And it doesn't have the cause effect reversal, which I think is a huge drawback. And she's susceptible to a lot of, you know, she doesn't have a lot of options against a lot of like the nonsense out there. I think a lot of the other OP servants have like better ways of like, you know, dealing with offensive stuff from their opponents and whatnot. She does have runs though, and you know, surely she has the run that Ku has, you know, that lets her block an NP and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I really do think Scath is like really, really high. But like when you compare her to like, you know, Canis, right now I think Canis is stronger because Canis is basically immune to everything aside from very specific things. And she's got an EX rank, you know, NP and all that nonsense. Is Semiramis immune to mental stuff? I want to say she is. I can't remember, but I know she's like immune to poisons, and I think she's immune to mental stuff as well. That's pretty good options. Yeah, it's pretty weird that she has it, but yeah, it's because she got mixed up with Nebuchadnezzar, which I wonder if they're ever gonna do him. Probably not, but I don't know, that'd be cool because I mean, he's perfectly famous, so. I mean, can the gate deal with what? But yeah, Scath's gate is actually really good too. I mean, I think Scath is way up there. I do think she's way up there, but I don't think I'd really put her over Canis right now. Unless, now again, once Canis gets a character material book, I'm kind of expecting Canis to be weaker because they're gonna. Surely they're gonna have some caveats to this kind of thing. But I mean, there's not much like sync up with Ishtar's NP and Scath's gate. Yeah, no, I don't think Gate would stop Ishtar's NP. No, I think it's a bit too much there. Now you might be able to gank Ishtar with it, but I think Ishtar could probably deal with that. And we weren't really sure if we should count Ishtar or not, because Ishtar is a god, and you normally cannot summon Ishtar, right? Like absolutely not. But you know, she can, you know, possess something, right? Like Rin or, you know, the homunculus and whatnot, and be summoned in a sense. So I don't know if Ishtar counts or not. She's in a really weird spot there. But Ishtar is definitely, if she does count, Ishtar is definitely up there. The thing is, I feel like Ishtar is kind of pointless because honestly, how powerful she's going to be is almost, there's no like standard to how powerful Ishtar is going to be. It's going to be like, what kind of vessel does she have? You know, how is she summoned? You know, she's not, because she's a god and she's so much more powerful than the container. Like, her power is going to fluctuate so dramatically, you know, based on context. So it's really hard to actually judge how strong she is. I would say Canis' defensive power is actually significantly better than Achilles, aside from maybe his shield. But like, you know, Achilles' divinity shield thing, a lot of things can get through. You just have to have divinity to get through it, right? You have to have like pretty much any form of divinity and you can get through it. Or just hit him in the heel. Now that's obviously way easier said than done. I would say the overwhelming majority of servants would never have a chance of hitting Achilles in the heel, and that's just not going to happen. But at least that's a thing, right? Where, as far as we're aware, with Canis's shield, and not her physical shield, but like her body is protected, and she just cannot be harmed unless you are blessed by a water god. Now, I would imagine there are certain things that can get around that. Maybe if you're a god with higher authority than Poseidon, you know, then that might be able to get through it. Like, now, like, a lot of gods are summoned in, like, a weakened state because they're being summoned into a container, and, like, then their authority is way, way weaker, and so that probably wouldn't work. But if Tiamat shows up, I'm pretty sure Tiamat's authority is going to trump the shit out of Poseidon's, and she could probably get through it, right? So it's not like she's immune to everything. But from what has been said about it, I would say it's way better than Achilles' thing. But I'm expecting them to add some kind of caveat to it when they give it a character material book. Because what they say in the story and what they say in her bio, it's just really blanket, you know, LOL, I'm invincible. But I'm expecting them to change that because it's just, and Canis is supposed to be really powerful and it says that, but that's too much. Like, that's ridiculous. But right now, that's what we know about it, so it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, thankfully in the story, you know, Super Orion is there, and he is blessed by a water god, and so they get rid of that NP of hers. The way she dies, it varies a little bit, but generally there is a centaur that like rips out a giant tree and bashes her so hard she goes all the way, or he at the time goes all the way into the underworld. That's the probably the most famous version of it. But there's that's actually not Canis, that's Canos, or Canios, or however the fuck you say it. But yeah, generally it's some form of getting bashed into the underworld. That's generally that way. And I'm so happy they mentioned that centaur in Fate Grand Order. Like, Canis is like that motherfucker, and it's kind of great. And I would imagine if they ever added him to the game, they probably won't, but if they ever do, they would surely make him an exception, and he would be able to hurt her, or he would have a noble phantasm that bypasses it, or whatever, because, you know, he was, you know, famous for being the one that, you know, smited thee. But yeah, I doubt we're ever going to see him, unfortunately. Yeah, when she's talking about, like, how, what's-his-face has, like, really good hospitality, and then she kind of goes on a tangent about, unlike that one centaur guy. Yeah, Anastasia I was wanting to look into, because I haven't really looked at, some of her stuff, so I'm not really sure where she lands on the totem pole on, an overall oomph. I know her NP's pretty nasty, but I don't really remember what, like, kind of utility she has and, like, her skills and stuff. I'm looking at her stats right now. She has E strength and E endurance, so that's really bad, but, you know, it's kind of what you expect out of a caster. C agility, A mana, D luck, oh god, and C NP. Honestly, her stats are atrocious, but she has territory creation EX, which that's really good. So, you know, it's gonna be like, I'm gonna make sure she doesn't have some, like, unique quality, because a lot of times they don't actually do what the generic territory creation does. So it says, while she is summoned as a servant, basically a few meters around her functions, so it makes her like the, you know, the czar of the area, and then it keeps expanding as time goes on. And she can combine it with her other skills. This is so vague! What the fuck? What is this from? This is from, I think it's from a character material book, yeah, and it's just, this is just so vague. What the hell? That doesn't explain what it does at all. I'm guessing it gives her like authority, and as time goes on, you know, her influence gets bigger. But that is so vague, I have no idea what that does. It's EX rank, so clearly it's good, but like that is so vague, I have no idea what that does. But it basically sounds like she gets like a type of authority in the area, and it just expands with time. And presumably, it's a lot of authority because it's EX rank. But that was so vague, I have absolutely no idea what that actually does. Every once in a while they do that, and they just don't want to explain shit. And then she's got the contract thing. She's got the contract with V. He's allowed to let people see him if he wants. Blah, blah, blah. They don't actually describe what it does. They just, that's stupid. Literally the text, they no, fucking Christ, man. Has Anastasia not gotten a full-blown character material book or something? Because there is not a lot of information on a lot of what her stuff does. Let's see, then what are her regular skills? She's got Mystic Eyes of Clear Sight, D rank. Charisma of Absolute Freeze, B rank. I have no idea what that does. I have no idea what any of this shit does. I don't think I've ever like read up really in detail about Anastasia here. Let's see. Oh my god, her Charisma of Absolute Freeze is not detailed either. They just said is a special charisma for SARS. That's it. It's a type of charisma that only like Russian leaders get. And then they did not describe it in any way. So what it actually, I have no idea what this does. That's great. I need to check her bio, because whenever the bio might have more stuff than this. This is ridiculous. There's so little information. Her VVV nonsense is EX rank. It releases the Mystic Eyes. It can distort basically, it can distort the principle of causality to create a weak point. But they don't go into much detail. She surely does not have a character material book. Like I don't think she has one. Let me check her bio here. Okay, this has a little bit more. Oh, no, it really doesn't. Yeah, no, it really is this. Good God. I'm looking at her bio. This is ridiculous. They are being so vague about everything. It's like we didn't actually decide what she was going to do lore-wise, so... Yeah, her other NP is not even used in FGO, it says, but that's really normal. You can summon like a Citadel. But only she herself can enter it. The whole castle will do no harm upon those who enter it uninvited. Or will do harm upon those who enter it uninvited. I guess that means it'd be hard to get to her, right? Because she could be in her castle, and if you're not invited, it'll like harm you if you go in there. So that's kind of good. Probably wouldn't help against anti-forts and shit. They need to detail some of this stuff more. Some of this is like really intriguing, but they're like, yeah, we're not actually gonna tell you what it does. I have no idea how powerful she is. I'm not gonna lie, I have absolutely no idea. Her NP is kind of like, honestly, Fujino's. That sounds similar to that. And apparently she can make a castle to like protect herself, and you can't enter it easily if she doesn't invite you. So that's good. And then she has an EX ranked territory creation, but we don't know what it does. She has a bunch of other skills that we don't know what they do. But then her stats are really low. So I have absolutely no idea how powerful she is. Okay, so that's pretty hard to put in the running for anything. That sucks. They really need to fix that. I remember Billy used to be like that, but then they eventually gave him a proper character material book and they fleshed all this stuff out. Some of it they're still vague about, honestly. Like some of his character material book didn't explain some things, but I remember when he first was released, feeling like nothing. Yeah, I think what happens sometimes is the writer that creates them doesn't put as much effort into it, and then it takes a while for like Natsu and the gang to like revisit them and try to flush them out like more fully, and that definitely seems kind of the case here. But I don't know who was responsible for creating her, to be honest. I don't even, dude, Antoinette's NP is so stupid. It's literally named that because they had to change its name. Her original NP name was different, and then they realized it was sharing a name, and so they had to change it. Because it doesn't actually have anything to do with what her NP is. And she obviously didn't break any guillotines in her life because she was killed by a guillotine, so it's very silly. Well, honestly, I would not be surprised though if they ever decide to flesh out Anastasia if she ends up being really overpowered, because I mean she has multiple EX ranked things. That castle sounds pretty useful. You know, the only real problem is her stats are kind of bad, but a lot of potential there, but not a whole lot to talk about right now. Feels bad, dude. George. God, that's a thankfully he has been flushed out, but he's not. Most of his abilities aren't, you know, represented in game, unfortunately. He is so strong though. Like George is just stacked. He is the Siegfried St. George combo in one lore-wise. Like he has an ability to mark people as a dragon, and then he actually has an NP that does massive damage to an enemy that is dragon. And then he's got so many noble phantasms. He's got the Horus. He's got really good skills. He's immune to mental bullshit. He can't be feared and charmed and like manipulated and that kind of thing. He's got some other skills I forgot. He's like, oh yeah, he gets to be like unbelievably tanky if he's defending someone, like his master. If he's defending his master, he becomes like unbelievably tanky and shit. Like he's so strong lore-wise, dude. Like, and you know, he for a 2-star, he's honestly one of the best 2-stars in the game. So, you know, it works well. But for real, like, lore-wise, he is so fucking powerful, it's ridiculous. Yeah, in a lot of circumstances, the only way I would say George, the one time I think George would be kind of meh in like a Grail War or something, is if he hated his master, and his master hated him, and they weren't working together, like, at all. That would be a problem. But that's probably not gonna happen very often. They'll probably revisit George. They like to revisit people that they know they kind of did dirty. And he's pretty popular, so. Yeah, Arash is another one of those low stars that lore-wise is just so freaking strong. Now, you know, Arash isn't like, you know, Gilgamesh or, you know, Edmund or, you know, Ozzy. He's not one of those, but like, he really is strong. You know, he's kind of in that, you know, Artoria power range, I would say. You know, which is, you know, well above average. I mean, I'm pretty happy with the Medea we got, So I mean, I think, you know, I wish they would buff her, for God's sakes. That's kind of the problem with that one. Yeah, I remember a long time ago, we decided to like really look at all George's stuff on stream, and it was just like, I was like, this is a lot stronger than I remembered. Yeah, fixing her NP mod and like having one of her skills to have like, you know, some more utility, I think would be really nice. I feel like Arash does have a chance of getting an animation update because he's so popular and everything. Well, and what they should do, I've seen so many people like, oh my god, they're gonna put in this chant and it'll be so long and it's gonna be terrible. But just do what they do with Arthur. Arthur's like quick mode is intentionally cuts out all the seals being released, right? They just cut that part out of it. Just do that for Arash. If you have it in slow-mo, you get the chant, and it's all awesome and shit, right? And then if you have it in fast mode, it just cuts the chant, and it's, you know, much quicker, right? No problem. Beowulf's animations are okay, but it would be nice if he got an update. They'll probably give Arthur an update at some point. It seems likely. I mean, his animations are, again, way above, like, day one animations. No one looks at Arthur's character model and like, wow, that looks awful. Like, that's not a thing. But, I could definitely see them updating him, because he's popular, and, you know, it's obvious at some point he's going to play a major role, because he's been slowly hinting at that forever. Although people are starting to get frustrated from that, from what I've seen, which I agree with. You know, they've been hinting at this whole 666 Beast Arthur hunt down bullshit forever, and it's like, can we pay this off at some point? I think it's going to be in one of those like 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 stories, like, because they do every once in a while they do a major event that's not like some silly, you know, side bullshit event. It's like, you know, tied to the main story. Like the Maze event was like that, and, you know, we've had some other ones like that, and they're generally like stories in between the main stories, or like the aftermath of one of the main stories, or something like things like that. And I could see them doing maybe an aftermath of Camelot or something like that. And then that's where we'll see 666 and Arthur and stuff. And maybe they work on some prototype stuff. That would be awesome. I think they could get that done, like, and make everybody happy. Because then you have a reason to, like, you know, use Arthur and use 666. But, like, I think some people, and I think this is dumb, but I think some people really don't want Arthur to show up in the main story. And they don't want 666 in the main story because Atoria or whatever. But, like, so that would be a good way of doing it, where you do, like, one of these in-between events and that kind of thing, and then you could really focus on the prototype stuff. Because as awesome as it would be, I don't think they're ever going to do a main story singularity that's full-on prototype focused. I just don't think they're going to do it, right? It's not going to happen. But I could see them doing an event, and hopefully it'll get a main interlude like CCC did, so, you know, we can replay it on different accounts and that kind of thing. Because it does suck when you have an event that you like more, like, than a lot of the main stories, but then unlike it, you know, the main stories you can revisit if you make a new account or whatever, where the events you can't, so. Yeah, then hopefully we get Proto-Coup eventually. It's so obvious, though, that they've been going out of their way to not, like, touch Proto-Coup, because they're, like, afraid of characterizing him incorrectly. So it's just gonna be up to when Nasu wants to be like, hey, we should actually, like, you know, set this in stone now. Because there's a lot of stuff with Proto-Coup that's not set in stone. By the way, what is set in stone for Proto-Coup is insanely overpowered, and, you know, regular Coup is really strong, he's got great options and all this nonsense, and there are some things that regular Coup has over Proto-Coup, but overall, Proto-Coup is kind of just an upgraded Coup. Like, he's got the same runes, he's got the same NP, but he's got higher stats and better armor. And so it seems like he has some runes that regular Coup doesn't. Now, that's not confirmed. It's not really clear. But, like, they say that Proto-Coup has a rune that can give him clairvoyance. He's got a rune that can, you know, boost his stats. And regular Coup has that one. They've confirmed that and things like that. But they've confirmed runes for Proto-Coup that have never been confirmed for regular Coup. And, you know, that being said, there's, you know, they haven't confirmed a lot of what runes do. But, like, right now, the confirmed shit that Proto-Coup can do is just absolutely ridiculous, and he has crazy high stats, and seriously, he's a Lancer that can give himself clairvoyance. Like, that's pretty scary. Yeah, Prototype does a lot of really OP nonsense in it. Everyone kind of presumes, though, that Proto-Gilgamesh is weaker than Gilgamesh, and that's totally possible. But I've always said, I have a feeling they're going to reveal new things about Proto Gil. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, see his EX and P is really strong and everything, but it's blatantly not as strong as Aya, and his Gatehead doesn't seem to be as powerful and stuff. So it's like he's clearly like, you know, strong, but not as strong as Gil. That's like everyone says, and it does seem that way. But he's so much less detailed. We have so much information about Gilgamesh, right? Like when we first saw Gilgamesh, we didn't know about the automated defense system and him having the Hydra's poison and all this, you know, and then the nukes and the flying machines, and like we didn't know that stuff, right? So like God knows what they're gonna give Proto Gil. I just have this I'm telling you, it's almost, it'd be cool, but on the other hand, I'd be kind of pissed. But like, I just have this feeling that someday they're gonna like add Proto Gil to the game or put him in another work, and they're gonna eventually, you know, give him like a bio and a character material, and it's just gonna reveal that he's just got like some app. Like I have Aya too, but it's even crazier, right? I can just see them doing that. I literally could just see them doing that. Like, so I mean, we'll see. Yeah, basically he needs like his Proto Gil. Okay, Proto Gil has many NPs just like regular Gil does. So you know we don't know what a lot of them do, but. His main NP is, as far as we know, it's his main NP. It's basically ends up being like a satellite in the atmosphere. It's like a star. It's like hovering there, and it needs like 7 days to fully prepare. And then when he unleashes it, it basically can like ultimately cover the whole world in like a tsunami, like super attack nonsense. And honestly, exactly how it works, we don't know. But you know, it does seem really, really powerful, and does a lot of like weird reality warping nonsense, like with the sky breaking and everything. It's kind of wild. I kind of think that's like kind of the truth effect, though. Like I kind of think that's like their take on it in Prototype, like the way it has the sky shatter, and like oh look, the waves were here this whole time, right? It's like that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's EX rank. It can like cover pretty much the whole world, and you know, it's really, really strong. But you know, Arthur's NP beats it. But I will say Arthur's NP is nonsense. You know, like I think a lot of people do not realize just how strong Arthur's NP can get, because like literally it offsets the EX rank NP with its after burn, you know, and its actual blast goes all the way into space and cleaves the star, right? So it's like that's ridiculous, right? So Proto Excalibur is some bullshit. So Proto Gil's NP losing to it isn't really a sign of Proto Gil's NP being weak. Like it's more of like, Jesus Christ, Proto Excalibur is ridiculous. Saber Gil confirmed. It might happen someday. Probably not with regular Gil, but maybe who knows what they're gonna do. I actually would not be surprised if Proto Gil could be a Saber, because he fights so much more on like the front lines compared to the regular Gil. I would say Arthur and Tori are extremely similar. Like they're intentionally so. They're extremely similar. But I would say Arthur is stronger because they're basically the same, but then Arthur has various circumstances where he gets a lot stronger than Artoria. Like, first, one thing that he just objectively has over her, and this is not a huge thing, but they're pretty much tied at everything. Like, they have the same skills and all this stuff, but he has one thing that she does not have, and that's his beast slaying ability, where if he's fighting, like, you know, giant monstrous beasts, he gets a large bonus. And that's pretty niche. Right, but that does come up pretty often because you've got, you know, things like Caster Gilius's monster in Fate Zero. You know, it obviously would help against things like that, and you know, dragons and just, you know, stupid bullshit Adam, you know, from a VC Brawn. You know, there's definitely times that would be a very nice thing to have, but that's niche. But again, they have like all the same skills. He just has this bonus on her that she doesn't have, and so basically her Excalibur is stronger on. Like, if the circumstances, like her, because her NP is just A++, right? It's just, her NP is just A++, and that's incredibly powerful. In FGO, it's sealed and it's weaker, and it's like A, I think it's just regular A, but then you unseal it and it's A++ again. But in the normal stories, like, you know, Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero and all these things, her Excalibur does not go down to A. It's just A++, right? Where Arthur's, its rank varies depending on the circumstances, right? It can be anywhere from C rank, which is obviously weaker, but then it goes up to like, you know, EX and, you know, God no, you know, it gets insanely bullshit strong. But overall, I would say Arthur's is better because they are stupid and they made all the seals on Excalibur laughably easy to get rid of. And it says, so basically Arthur needs, I think, it's either 6 or 7, I forget all the time, but Arthur needs 6 or 7 seals released to be at EX rank, and then any seals beyond that just make it even stronger, right? And so that would mean to get A++, he probably needs like 4 seals you know, maybe 5 would be like a triple plus or whatever. So roughly you need about 4 seals released to be on par with Artoria's. And it's like, so many of the seals are so stupid. Like, how are you not gonna, of course you're gonna be able to release these if you want. Like, one of the seals, the one from Lancelot, is don't be fighting an elemental, and an elemental is basically the Lady of the Lake. It's like the fairies and shit. So don't be murdering the Lady of the Lake, and that's one seal. It's like, well, okay, that's pretty much always. You know, one is to be fighting for truth, which that's like so vague. Like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? But I guess it means, you know, Arthur can't be like, you know, being evil and like, I guess, you know, Arthur Alter, when he's like, you know, being a dick, he probably can't get that seal released, right? But generally Arthur's, you know, a good boy, and so that's not, you know, really one. Like, that's an easy one to get rid of. You know, one is for it to be a 1v1. Yeah, that's one. And that one's going to vary. You know, sometimes you're absolutely not going to be in a 1v1, but sometimes you will. That one's really easy. One's like fight someone that's, you know, it's stronger than you, and I assume that means like your stats and whatnot. So you have to, because I know that one went off against Proto Gil, I think. I don't really know how that one judges though, because it doesn't say. They give no detail. It could be like their overall power, their NP ranks, their like, I don't know. Like, it's too vague. And then one is like, you know, like, you know, be fighting to save the world. That one you're not going to be getting very often. And there's a bunch of, I don't remember all of them, but there's so many of them are just so like, it's just silly. Like, getting all, you know, getting 4 or 5 or 6 of them released is quite easy. Now, getting all 13 released, it would be quite, you to get all of them released, you basically need to be fighting a giant monster that's threatening the entire world, and you have to not be a dick. And not be killing the Lady of the Lake, right? That's how you. That's a very specific set of circumstances. So you're almost never going to get all 13 released, but you don't need all 13. So overall, I would say the difference between Artoria and Arthur in a common circumstance, let's say Artoria is fighting Proto-Coup, or Arthur is fighting Proto-Coup. They're pretty similar. There's not much difference, right? Arthur's bonus skill's not going to come into play. The amount of seals that are going to be released on Excalibur or Proto-Excalibur are probably going to put it higher than regular Excalibur, but it's not going to really matter. Like, you know, it's either going to hit Coup with it or you're not, because the way that fight is. So it's like, it's just not gonna, there's not that big of a difference. And then their stats are, a lot of people say Arthur's stats are better, and they kind of are, but it's like, they're apples and oranges, right? Like, it's almost a preference thing, like how you want to. Let me look. I haven't looked in a while. Off my memory, people always say Arthur's stats are better if he has a proper master, but off my memory, it's pretty apples and oranges. So let me look here, because they both have had like a million masters. So okay, let's see here. Where is I gotta get Artoria up? Hold on. But they're so similar, like, I really don't think there's that big of a difference, but I do think Arthur's a bit better because you do have the NP is, if you're gonna have to fight something bullshit like Aya or some nonsense, Arthur's gonna be better. And like, some people act like that's not the case, but it blatantly is. Like, if you're gonna fight something crazy OP like Aya or you know, you just get, you know, or Enkidu or Karna, like, regular Artoria is not gonna be able to beat Karna in like an NP fight, right? This is not gonna happen, where Arthur probably can, or at least put up a better fight. So overall, I do think Arthur's NP is better. Okay, let's find their stats here. Why? They both have so many masters, it makes this very obnoxious. Because masters always influence your stats, because like, it's like a preference thing. It's not just like how good the master is, but different masters like influence the servants like in different ways. Because like, you know, Kurutsugu's got different stats than Rin, and then Shiro. Shiro obviously is a lower, really low quality master, so her stats are lower like that. Although weirdly enough, her luck is higher. When she was summoned by Shiro, it gave her a higher luck stat for some fucking reason. Yeah, I'm looking at their stats. I mean, it's like, it's really just apple. Like, they're very similar. Like, you know, he's tankier than she is. But she's got better mana than he does, although I think some of that is because of the weird circumstances. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong master for him. Whoops. Okay, no, yeah, his stats are better. Okay. I was looking at his nerf stats. Yeah, his stats are better. Okay. Yeah, he's a tanky boy. Wow, his stats are bullshit. Literally, he's good at everything but luck. He's not a lucky boy. Everything else is really good, but yeah, he's not a lucky one. It's not that big of a difference, though. I mean, their stats are both really good. Like he is a bit tankier and a bit stronger and that kind of thing. But But yeah, not a lucky man. That's the one thing. He's not doing so good in the luck department. Although, honestly, her luck's not that good either with most masters. When she was summoned into Fates of the Night, it made her luck a lot better because of Shiro. This is like a reoccurring theme. They've never said this, but it's obvious. Every time a servant is summoned by a piece of shit master, even if they lose that master, their like luck stat is just way higher. Like when Karna is summoned in CCC and stuff, he has a higher luck stat than normal there because he has a bad master. You know, same with Artorias when she had a bad master. Same for Medusa when she's got Shinji and stuff. This is just like a reoccurring theme when servants have an abnormally crap master, they just randomly get a really high luck stat. I guess it's a way to like justify plot armor. I guess that's why. But yeah, I don't see any good argument for Artoria being stronger than Arthur, but I don't think the difference is that big outside of if you are fighting something crazy OP, then Arthur is definitely better. But yeah, I see some people that try to say Artoria is better, but literally, what's the logic there? Her stats are worse, her NP, although it's a better average. It's so easy for Arthur to get above average that it doesn't matter. And then their skills are exactly the same, except Arthur has an extra one, so it's like, there's no world where Artoria is better. The thing is, Artoria doesn't have Avalon, right? And if she obtains it, you could just say, well, what if Arthur obtained it? Like, neither of them... They've never confirmed that Arthur doesn't have, like, if they have confirmed that Artoria does not have Avalon, and that's not even surprising because that's part of the actual story of King Arthur. They've never said that, Arthur doesn't have it, but it's so obvious that he doesn't. Like, it's so obvious he's in the exact same boat as Artoria, where he lost it like a dumbass, and then his master, has it for whatever fucking reason, and that's how they summoned him and all that. It's obvious. Like his master has like a magical relic inside of her. They never said what it was, but it's like, it's Avalon. Like, come on. Like, let's be real here, right? And then it's such a standard thing that Arthur lost Avalon, right? And then because Artoria lost it too. Of course, Arthur lost Avalon and everything. So, it's obvious they both don't have it. So. Yeah, and if you want to jump through hoops, be like, well, you know, we're gonna give Artoria Avalon just cause, then you have to give it to Arthur too, so that doesn't change the damn thing. There's, oh my god, so it basically what they've said about Protoku's master is she claims that she sealed his noble phantasm because it's unelegant, right? And you shouldn't. That's not how you should kill servants and shit like that. But that's not, which is an unbelievably stupid reason. But that's not actually her reason. It's actually because she's scared that Protoku's going to betray her, basically, which is still a stupid reason, and he would not have betrayed her. But long story short, she's an idiot, and she screwed over her servant, and she died, right? That's the long story short. But yeah, like, she originally claims that she seals it because it's like unelegant and blah 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 blah, which that's such a fucking stupid reason. Anyway, but yeah, it's actually because she's afraid that like, I'm pretty sure in her life she had a lot of really bad experiences with men, and so she's like kind of sexist against men, and assumes men are always going to screw her over, and so that's kind of a thing with her. And so yeah, she's worried that Protoku's going to betray her. Yeah, pretty stupid. So imagine this. I've said this before. I think she is the worst master in all of Fate, right? And that may change because I stand by this, that I think they're going to retcon her to a degree if they ever flesh out Prototype, because she's too stupid. Like, it's too stupid. Like, she does too many stupid things. It's nuts. So I would hope at some point they retcon her to be less of an idiot. Anyway, so, you know, she summons Protoku. He's crazy powerful, like Jesus Christ. But, you know, she seals his NP, and then that's dumb. But then she actively sends him out to seek out enemy servants without having his noble phantasm. He's using, like, a makeshift normal spear. That's a piece of junk, right? And she actively sends him out to find other servants, which that is going to get him killed. And obviously Protoku is very powerful and everything. Without his NP, he's at a massive disadvantage. And one of the only reasons he doesn't get killed is because of plot armor and because Protogil doesn't feel like killing him, basically. Like, he seeks out Protogil because that's his job, but he doesn't know who Protogil is yet. He's just seeking out the archer, right? And he runs into Protogil pretty early in the story. And Protogil's not all that interested in from what I understand, Protogil is not interested in the Grail War, really. He's more interested in, like, asserting that he's the strongest, and then, and then Arthur's master, he's wants to marry her, right? That's pretty. He doesn't really care about the Grail Wars. He doesn't care really about the other servants and stuff. And so he's basically just chatting with Proto-Ku. He's not initiating any kind of hostility. And then Proto-Ku pretty much says, I can tell you're a way above average servant, and I got no, I'm not, without my noble phantasm, I'm not gonna bother trying to fight you. And so he just leaves, right? And then he has his run-in with, Arthur's master, where honestly he would have so easily died there. He literally doesn't have his noble phantasm, and he runs into fucking Arthur, right? And it's really bad, and he almost gets wrecked there, but he leaves and he's fine. But like, you do not summon a servant like Proto-Ku, seal their amazing NP, and then send them out with like a makeshift wooden spear against God knows what enemy servants. That's insanity. Right, if you want to seal his NP because you're afraid he's going to betray you, then you need to be defensive and have the enemy servants come to you, and then if an emergency comes up, then you can unseal the NP, right? That would make a lot more sense. But she doesn't do that. Like, she's a fucking idiot. And she's on a time limit. She has like this like sickness, and she's going to die in a certain amount of time. And surprise, surprise, that happens. She runs out of time, and she's not able to like accomplish what she wants to, and then she basically gets turned into a zombie by one of her enemies when she dies. It's like, okay, good job, Einstein. But yeah, she fails miserably. She's the stupidest master I have ever seen. Shinji is smarter than her. I'm serious. Shinji is smarter than her. Like, she's a better quality master, but in terms of like her tactics and attitude, she's pretty stupid. It's funny, Arthur even comments on how bad of a master she is. That takes a lot. Like because Arthur's, not generally a dick, but like he even comments on like how bad of a master she is. And he's basically like, bad luck for you, Ku. And then this I've never understood, and now that I think about it, it's probably his clairvoyance. But somehow Proto-Ku is aware of Arthur's previous master, but he wasn't. Proto-Ku's not in Silver Fragments, right? When she was around, he's not in that story. But because basically they have like Arthur and him are talking, and Arthur's like, sucks to have such a shitty master, basically. And he's like, right back at you. And then later in the story, Proto-Ku ends up becoming the servant of the main character, Arthur's master, Ayaka, or her name, and he becomes her servant later. And she's all like, Rue for Slam about that comment earlier. And then he has to clarify that he wasn't talking about her, he was talking about Arthur's previous master. But I'm like, how the fuck does he know about Arthur's previous master? But I guess it's because he has clairvoyance or something. But yeah, because the story's not finished, and it's just like we got these things through Nasu and character material books and stuff, we don't know like the fine details. Like, we don't know how exactly these things come to play, so. Yeah, she's got a curse on her, and she's not gonna be able to live very long, basically. And so I think, if I remember correctly, Proto-Ku even says that. Like, there's the note that he basically says because she's on a time limit, she needs to be, dealing with things differently, right? But she doesn't. Well, legitimately, Proto-Ku does have a run that gives him clairvoyance, so. That's the only way I can make sense of him knowing about his previous master. Either that or it's just a straight up plot hole. Yeah, it's because, Prototype doesn't exist in like a full form, right? You got the OVA, you got what Nasu has said, you've got the character material books, and then you do have the prequel, which is finished, but And was it Hohenheim that put that curse on her? I don't remember. I remember Hohenheim doing a lot of bullshit in the prequel, and I know Proto-Ku's master is in the prequel as a child, but I didn't remember if Hohenheim did that. He did? Wow, what a shift. Proto-Ku just, I don't know if he flat out calls her stupid, but like he doesn't agree with the way she's, it's funny because in a lot of ways they would have been able to get along if she wasn't so like paranoid of him, but he doesn't like her, like the tactics and stuff. Basically, communications break down and things don't really work out between them as time goes on, but it's like a lot of like, her not managing the situation properly, because like inherently he doesn't really mind her. So Hyde, lore-wise, is crazy strong. Now, the FGO version of Hyde is not actually the one in Fate Prototype fragments because he wasn't completed yet back then. He didn't have like, they hadn't designed what he looked like. So they basically just took his Jekyll form, which had a design, and then just used that. So he's technically an alternate version, and he's not as strong, but in FGO he is still really, really strong. But his like full normal, you know, self it's ridiculous. So basically he's summoned as a berserker, and he has a skill that allows him to like mimic being an assassin, which is like, you know, his Jekyll persona. But he is a berserker, but he gets like a version of presence concealment and blah 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 when he's in his Jekyll form. And basically when he goes Hyde mode, he turns into basically a werewolf, honestly. Like in some of the, you know, versions of Hyde, he's kind of like a werewolf, right? You know, not a full-on werewolf. It's kind of like between like a man monster and a werewolf. But yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you can read most of it on Beastslayer. Yeah. Anyway, and he gains, you know, insane stats. He can operate without a master for an incredibly long time because he goes Hyde mode and is fighting everyone when his master is dead. That obviously makes it harder for him, but he's able to operate pretty well even without a master, which makes it kind of scary if he had a good master. And he gets a regeneration ability that allows him to like get hit by a Noble Phantasm and just heal back. And like and that happens. He gets nuked by like Ozzy and shit, and he just heals it back. Like he ends up fighting Arthur, Ozzy, and I think Arash, and I think somebody else, and he's actually like, you know, being able to go toe to toe. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's with no master. So yeah, he's nuts. Like, he is really fucking powerful. He's the first servant to die, but that's mainly just circumstances because his master's really weak and his master's kind of an idiot. And yeah, he mostly gets taken out because his master dies, but he's able to go toe-to-toe with multiple servants, which is very abnormal. You do have to be careful with Beastslayer. I find Beastslayer normally has some of the best information, but it also has a lot of false information because it has no filter, right? People can just blurt out whatever they want. And there definitely have been times where people are mistaken and have bad translations and things are wrong. But generally, most, like, if you want to get the hardcore stuff, Beastslayer is a good place to go. It's good to kind of check your references and you know, don't take anything as gospel, but it generally is one of the best places to get like the down and dirty information, like very much so. Why is Hyde so powerful in Fate? I mean, he's, you know, one of the most famous stories on planet Earth, and in his own story, he's really powerful. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. Almost no one doesn't know about Jekyll and Hyde. That's a very famous story. And it just makes sense, you know, because in the context of his own story, Hyde was, you know, way stronger than what like a person was supposed to be, right? So it kind of makes sense that they did it that way. Well, his master was already dead before that. But then he later gets turned into a zombie. If I remember correctly, I don't think Serenity even wanted to kill him. I think it was an accident. I don't quite remember. But I think Serenity actually liked him or something. I don't remember exactly how it worked. Serenity is pretty nuts, though. I honestly don't like Serenity very much because, like, she's kind of just nuts. Like, everyone tries to make her like a waifu, but like in Fate Prototype, I mean, she's pretty evil, and not in a great way. Now, like, yeah, her backstory is tragic, sure, but like, she's not so great. They definitely make her a lot more sympathetic though in FGO. Yeah, she's kind of creepy. Oh, right! Yeah, that's right. She's working with Psychopath. That's right. Psycho Child. Who we are assuredly going to see more of in the future, by the way, because honestly, I think Fate Labyrinth is a way more important story than people realize, and I think it was intentionally written this way, and I think even they have kind of, you know, it wasn't super popular, so they don't really reference it a lot. But Prototype is the explanation for what the fuck is going on. Like, it really is. Because Labyrinth, Fate Labyrinth was written kind of like right as FGO was coming about. And it's like the bridge between Prototype and the regular Fate franchise, and it kind of explains why the Beast is still around after Fate Prototype and stuff. Ayaka or the fuck or whatever, not the wrong sister. Whatever the fuck her name is, right? Master Arthur's original master, you know, Psycho Lolly. You know, she is ludicrously powerful, and she's, you know, connected directly to the root, and she's like amazing magic circuits and all this nonsense. And she's basically in that book is like after what happened in Prototype, she's basically like between dimensions and stuff, and she sees all this. She literally sees like the timeline of APOC, and she sees like Zig and Janna and their far side of the world nonsense, and all these other things. And then she basically like connects Prototype to the regular, you know, Fate, you know, timeline. And then she pops into the Fate timeline, and you know she meets regular Artoria, and Medea gets summoned, and Robin and Cursarm and Asterios and all this other nonsense. And they have a little mini adventure there. But the point of that story is ultimately to explain why Prototype is now, you know, part of the regular timeline, and why the Beast is here. Because it's so weird. It's so weird because Prototype's not a finished story. But they basically implied what the ending of Prototype is, and it's that, you know, Arthur beats the Beast, which, wow, who knew the main character was going to beat the bad guy? But so, you know, in Prototype Fragments, the Beast almost gets summoned, and Arthur kind of messes up the summoning, but he doesn't defeat the Beast, he doesn't die, but the ritual gets messed up. And then in Prototype, they kind of try again, right? And then the Beast presumably actually gets summoned, and Arthur goes big boy mode on it and gets rid of it. But they straight up say, and this was, I think, in Arthur's Trial Quest, which was added, you know, a long time ago when Arthur was introduced. It's funny, Proto Merlin was in this all those years ago. Arthur's like, you know, at Avalon or whatever, and Proto Merlin's like, your job's not done yet, the Beast isn't, you know, you need to beat it a third time. Saying you need to beat it a third time implies he beat it a second time in Prototype, right? So again, really weird that it's not, you know, Prototype's not an actual story, but we kind of already know what's going to happen. But yeah, she basically says he needs to, you know, the Beast has escaped into another world and needs to beat it a third time. And I'm assuming this bridge is there because of Fate Labyrinth and whatnot. And so, you know, that, you know, Arthur's basically, you know, instead of going to Avalon, he's, you know, going to FGO and trying to, you know, finish Beastie Boy for good. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping they'll have like an event like CCC for Prototype where they kind of remake the world of Prototype in like a, you know, pocket dimension or whatever the fuck, and like, you know, some memory bullshit or whatever with the Beast or whatever, and then you fight the Beast, you know, one last time or whatever the hell, and it could give us a bit more insight to how Prototype is supposed to be or was going to be or is going to be or however the fuck it's going to turn out. I mean, Jack the Ripper and Fate Strange Fake is just like the incarnation of the actual Jack the Ripper stories, right? Jack and APOC is not Jack the Ripper, right? Jack in that is just a bunch of dead kids that combined and made a wraith that killed a bunch of people that were similar to the killings of Jack the Ripper. And so what their justification is basically, so you have the real Jack the Ripper out there doing the real killings, right? And then you have these wraith kids doing killings that were similar, and basically the public conflated the killings, and so they kind of think that these killings by these kids was also Jack the Ripper, and that's why she's been like conflated, and that's like their whole justification. But ultimately, she's not Jack the Ripper, she's just a bunch of dead kids. And then Jack the Ripper and Fate Strange Fake is the actual incarnation of the actual, you know, murders and mystery surrounding Jack the Ripper. But because humanity never figured out who the actual killer was, he can basically manifest as any of the people that could have potentially have been Jack the Ripper, or anyone that humanity thought might have been Jack the Ripper. So he's basically just the embodiment of the mystery, right? He basically, if I remember correctly, his wish is to basically, you know, become whole and figure out who the actual killer was, and, you know, actually, you know, be a proper, you know, thing. But yeah, everyone thinks, you know, they try to imply that he's gone. And spoilers. They really want you to think that Flat and Jack are gone in the last book. But the way everything's done, I don't think he is. I think Flat's like pseudo personality is gone. But I think he's going to like fuse with Jack, because Jack seems to have like the ability to do something like that. So I think Jack and Flat are going to fuse and make some kind of like Jack the Ripper incarnation that's being actualized by Flat. And we don't, because basically we don't know Flat's past and stuff, but there's a lot of like mystery there, and he's very implied to actually be pretty disturbed, and because of his time with Waver and everything, you know, he's able to, you know, be happy and nice and everything. But he's actually a pretty disturbed person, and like that, all that happy nonsense from Waver and everything is probably gone now. And now he's gonna probably fuse with Jack and probably be a psychopath or some nonsense. But I have a feeling something will happen, and you know, his you know, one normal persona will probably, you know, come back or do something or whatever. So we'll see. But I wonder if Waver's gonna be in it more. Actually, that'd be cool because Waver's been in Fate Strange Fake a little bit. But yeah, he's probably gonna fuse with Jack in some way. And a lot of people have speculated if we ever get a Fate Strange Fake collab, you know, down the line, that they might make this Jack Flat fusion the welfare. And I actually I can see that. There's other things it could be. There's several things that could be the welfare. But I could see that because Flat isn't really the main character, but he's definitely kind of in that role in a way, right? And he's also just like a character that people like a lot. And he's just an easy unit to go with for the welfare because he's a good entry point into the series. He's generally very likable, but he's popular, but he's not so popular that they're gonna want that waifu money, right? So Flat Jack being the welfare is definitely possible, but I could see it being a lot of things. I could see a lot of things being the welfare. I could see Richard being the welfare, but I doubt it because he's a bit too popular and he's almost too big of a historical figure. I think they're gonna want him to be, you know, a 5-star rate up at some point, right? So I don't know, we'll see. They're probably not gonna put everything in from Fate Strange Fake at once just because there's so many servants and they don't want to add that much at once. I really do think they're gonna add some Fate Strange Fake stuff before the books are done, but it'll be stuff that the writer okays. And it's like, okay, they've kind of, you know, had they're done in the books, and we've kind of seen their whole toolkits. There's nothing you're gonna be able to spoil or run. So I do think that we'll see a few things before they would do a collab event, because they're gonna want to spread it out. Just like with APOC, they kind of wanted to spread it out. They added a chunk before, you know, and they did Semiramis before, and then they did the collab, and they added you know, a good chunk at once. They're gonna need to do something like that with Fate Strange Fake. They're not gonna be able to add everybody at this exact same time. So. What, the Zealot? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she'll... I mean, if Fate Strange Fake, you know, if FGO keeps going, you know, and it doesn't, you know, implode, I'm sure they'll get around to it at some point. I mean, she's perfectly popular, too. I would imagine the Zealot would be a 4-star, though, I would think. I would hope Dumas would be a 3-star. I think he's so perfect for a 3-star caster support, like for an NP support, right? He's so perfect for that. But yeah, I would think Zealot would be a 4-star. She is a waifu, I guess, but... I think she'd be a 4-star, kind of like where she is in the story relative to everyone else. I definitely think she'd be a 4-star. Yeah, I think Herc Alter would be a 5-star because people hype him so fucking much. I definitely think they'd make him a 5-star. I think Richard would be a 5-star. I think Jack probably be a 4-star, potentially welfare, but also probably just a 4-star anyway. Let's see, what else we got here? Some of them they might not do. It's hard to say because we don't know when the books are going to be done. I feel like they might not do True Assassin, which I hate that so much. I love him to death. He's my favorite Hassan, so I want them to do him so badly. But if they were going to skip out on a servant, I feel like he's the one that they would skip out on. I hate that so much, but I think they might skip him. If they did add him, though, I wouldn't be a 5-star. He's not popular enough. But I could see him being a 3-star, 4-star, hell, even a bronze. Even though how OP he is, he really shouldn't be a bronze, but that's never stopped them before. So I probably 4-star or 3-star, I think. Yeah, it's a book series, and then there's a manga, and I do agree. I think the manga is pretty good. It cuts some detail and trims some fat, and so you miss out on a few things. But I do think so. For what I've seen of the, I haven't read all of the manga, but what I have read of the manga, it's a pretty good adaptation in my opinion. And I'm pretty picky about adaptations, honestly. I think I'm quite picky, and I think it's pretty good. I think it does a good job. So, but I do think the books do give you more detail and whatnot. But Pale Rider, I don't know what they would do with. I mean, I could see him being a 4-star just because they can't make everything a 5-star, right? And it's just like Hot Wheels is obviously powerful enough and popular enough that he could have been a 5-star, but because kind of where he is in his own story relative to Gajuna, he's a 4-star, right? But Hot Wheels is blatantly stronger than a lot of other 5-stars and everything, right? But so like I could see them making Pale Rider a 4-star just because just kind of where he fits into the story. and whatnot, but he is obviously ludicrously powerful and super scary and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, a lot of the rarity is going to come down to when they're added. That's just how the game is, right? A lot of things end up being... Honestly, Canis being 4-star doesn't even make sense. I have no idea why she's a 4-star. Now, like, some of it was just because I think they had dictated she was going to be a 4-star a long time ago. Because she is stronger than the twins. There's no way around this. Like, they beat her up, but that was because she was already a bloody mess from Orion and Jason, right? Like, you look at their toolkits, she is absolutely stronger than the twins, right? Like, and at the end of the story, they're like, Jesus Christ, she's not like kind of like a god. She is a full-on god at the end. Like, she is blatantly more powerful than the twins, and she's also more popular than the twins, right? So it's like she's more powerful lore-wise. That doesn't always mean you're gonna get a higher rarity, though. We've got all kinds of powerful things that are low rarity, but she's also really popular, right? I don't know. Maybe they thought she wasn't gonna be as popular, but she also plays a way bigger role in the story. Out of all the rarities they've ever done, I have never been more confused by Canis's rarity. I've never been more confused because she plays a massive role in the story. The twins end up not playing that big of a role in the story. She is more powerful than them, and she is more popular than them. It's just weird. Like, I have no idea why she was a 4-star, but I made her easier to get, so I guess that's good. But yeah, I've never understood that. And they've done weird things with rarity before, but that's one of the weirdest things that they've ever done. But yeah, ultimately, I think Pale Rider's rarity would come down to when he's added. Like, if they end up doing like the trickle effect, they're kind of like, oh, throw in a Straight Fane character here, and then one there, and one there, and then maybe a chunk with the collab. If they do it like that, right, God knows, then they could make, a lot more 5-stars if they wanted to. So if like Pale Rider was like added independently, and he wasn't like part of a, other things getting added at the same time, then I think Pale Rider probably would be a 5-star. But if he's added, in relative to a lot of other things, then I think he's probably going to be a 4-star. Yeah, a lot of people have said that. They think they made her SR because they knew they were going to add Romulus and they wanted him to be the 5-star. And they're both Lancers, so it's be kind of weird. Like, and legitimately, it would be weird if they did back-to-back banners, 2 AoE 5-star Lancers, right? And that'd probably lose them money. So that's the best reason I can think of why they did it, and that definitely is in line with their logic and how they've handled things in the past. So that's the best explanation we got, but we have no confirmation of that, obviously. But that's a perfectly reasonable theory. There's 2 casters in Strange Fake. There's Dumas, who I love to death, even though he's a shithead. And then I don't remember how to pronounce the name of the other one, but they're also a shithead. The casters in Face Strange Fake are pretty weird, to be honest. But yeah, I think Dumas should be a 3-star caster that gives battery and then like NP damage up, that kind of thing. Oh my god, yeah, the writer. I love that scene because, and some of what he was saying was literally a bluff. They literally say later that, like, Hercules was bluffing, but, Hercules is all, look how great I am. You're gonna have to use Aya if you're gonna want to hurt me, and blah, blah, blah. And then he just gets, like, decked in the schnoz all of a sudden. It's really funny. Like, he's having a moment, right? And then he just gets, blasted with good old-fashioned fisticuffs, which is pretty great. I don't see anyone talk about her. I guess it's because a lot of people haven't read Face Strange Fake, but I always would have thought she'd be pretty popular. But literally no one talks about her ever. Like, I never see anyone talk about her in, like, any of, like, on Discord, Reddit, Wiki. I don't see any conversation about her. That might change when Face Strange Fake maybe gets more in the public eye, I guess. But I don't know, though. It's weird because people do talk, not loads, but people do talk about, like, Richard and Pale Rider and those kinds of things, right? But she doesn't get much focus at all. I mean, she's done a decent amount. She, like, obviously decked Hercules' altar, and then he still doesn't take her seriously, though, but that's probably going to be his undoing, honestly. But yeah, she hasn't done loads yet, but I honestly don't mind her design. It's kind of nice to do sometimes, some is less is more, keep it simple, stupid. I think a lot of times when you get, like, too caught up in trying to make something fancy and ends up looking pretty stupid, and she's kind of just you know, what you would expect, right? And that's okay, right? And so she needs to be carried by, you know, she needs to have a good personality and characterization to back that up, obviously, but, yeah, I don't mind the design at all. Yeah, honestly, I think she's gonna be his undoing, definitely. Like, the way he acts around her, it's like his blind spot, and she just has the toolkit that she needs to beat him. And, like, they want you to think it's gonna be, you know, him versus Gil, but I don't think they're gonna... Just like how Lancelot and Gil never had a final confrontation, I don't think they're gonna fight again. I don't think so. I think their nod to Gil was kind of how Gil was clearly beating his ass the last time he fought. But I don't think they're ever going to fight again. I don't think they're going to have a definitive battle between Gil and Hercules again. I think that last fight with them and with the Ishtar nonsense, I think that's the last time you're going to see them. They might have like a minor run-in again, but I honestly doubt it. I definitely think he's going to get smacked by the writer instead. There's so much stuff that I want to see flushed out in Fate Strange Fake. I can't wait. Like, I want to see what's going on with Humbaba. Overwhelmingly, it looks like what happened with Humbaba is they were trying to summon Berserker Edison, and it was going wrong. And we know this. They were summoning something. We don't know who, but they were summoning something, and it was going wrong. And Ishtar stabilized it, and she basically put a soul in the container, right? And what I overwhelmingly think happened is they were trying to summon Berserker Edison, and it went wrong. And then Ishtar put Humbaba's soul in it. And so now you have this Humbaba and like Berserker Edison's container, and it's like it's a shit show, right? That's basically I think what happened, right? Because that's definitely what they've implied. You know, the details we don't know for sure, but like it's definitely Humbaba related, because all that stuff at the end with Enkidu makes that very obvious. What's the deal with Berserker and Enkidu? So basically, so, you know, in the actual story, in the Fate version, you know, Enkidu gets, Shiki, by the way. You know, Enkidu is, you know, sent by the gods to counter Gilgamesh and everything. He's basically made to do that, and he's not, you know, human or anything. He's just like this monstrous form, you know, made out of clay. And then the people of Uruk think, oh my god, this guy's too strong even for Gilgamesh. We need to do something about this. And they leave it to Shamat because... You know, unlike in the modern day, you know, a sacred prostitute is not a hooker, right? That's not what that is. You know, they're basically the interpreters of the gods. They're like supposed to hold a lot of wisdom to like teach to people and blah 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 blah. And then like they saw sex as a way. It's not like a taboo thing, right? Sex was a very different thing to them, and it was like sacred, right? So it's like her job to try to, you know, deal with this, and basically, you know, she gets Enkidu to like learn the ways of people and to gain human wisdom, because he doesn't have when original Enkidu does not have human wisdom. He has beastly instinct, you know, like wolves and bears and that kind of shit, right? But you know, she teaches him, you know, human wisdom and all that, so then he molds himself to be more like a human, and he, you know, he models himself, you know, after her. Like he basically sees in Fate, as far as I see it, he basically sees her as his mother, right? And he basically, that's why he kind of, you know, honors her with, you know, taking her form to a degree, although he obviously looks a bit more masculine, but, you know, very, very similar. Anyway, because he gains human wisdom, he actually loses a lot of his power, right? Like, a lot of his power is lost, and he loses a lot of his instinct, a lot of his beastly instinct is lost. But he gains, you know, human intelligence and wisdom and stuff. But he's still, you know, really fucking powerful. He's basically tied, even after that, and he's nerfed, he's basically tied with Gilgamesh, right? And that's why Berserker and Enkidu is kind of held in such high regard for being OP, because even Gilgamesh is like, yeah, that's bullshit. And Gilgamesh basically says if to summon Enkidu, you would have to cheat, and you'd basically have to do something that would allow you to summon a god, right? Because he's basically on par with a god, right? Berserker Enkidu is just is nonsense. And they've hinted at him a few times outside of Fate Strange Fake. They hinted at him very mildly in CCC, and then they hinted at him again in FGO recently, and that was actually written by the guy that wrote Fate Strange Fake, so it's kind of legit. So we're probably going to see him at some point for some reason. We don't know when or why or how. But he's probably going to be, you know, absolutely batshit insane in terms of power level. And he's obviously not going to have, like, necessarily human wisdom and that kind of thing. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that. But in my opinion, is the strongest servant, even though we don't know what he has, because Enkidu is basically tied with Gilgamesh, and then Berserker Enkidu is just objectively stronger. I think Berserker Enkidu is probably the strongest servant, you know, normal servant anyway, if you can count him as that. Moby Dick is probably in Fate Strange Fake, by the way, but he's actually been a thing for a while. Like a Phantasmal Beast or whatever they call them. No, so Watcher is not confirmed to be Moby Dick. Their pure identity is probably a chick, but they're in actual history, but they've been actually gender bent to be a man. So that's like the only time that's ever happened. But they're really weird, and we don't. Okay, I mean, Watcher is probably the most complicated servant we've ever had, and they're not fully known. But basically, there's like a lot of tag-alongs. And they're like phantoms and shit, and this is so weird. I literally sound like a maniac what I'm about to say, but this is accurate. Watcher's proper class is Gatekeeper, not Watcher, right? And most people are like, what the fuck is a Gatekeeper? But that's just been a class that's been around for a while, but it was never like used. But it's been a confirmed class for some time. So their proper class is Gatekeeper. But they were for whatever reason, they were summoned to be a Watcher because of the bullshit circumstances of what's going on in Fate Strange Fake. And then they have like a lot of tag-along. Something about their toolkit and their circumstance has allowed like a lot of tag-along like nonsense. And then one of the tag-alongs is probably Ahab. And it seems like if Ahab is ever summoned, then Moby Dick has to be summoned, and so for some reason there's Moby Dick running around, right? It's really whack, right? And we don't actually understand exactly what the fuck is going on. And I don't actually remember the name of the core person that is probably Watcher. But in actual history they are female, but in this they do seem to be male. But that may be because of circumstances. But I forgot their name. But in real history they are a woman. And they do have some nonsense to do with gates or gatekeeping or some bullshit, so it's really weird. And they'll probably flush them out later. Like they're gonna play more of a role later. Cause yeah, they have a lot of stuff going on with Sigma, and Sigma's probably gonna end up materializing as like the true Lancer, and you know all this other nonsense. Sigma's probably gonna end up being a big part of the story later. So they've actually said with Kojiro, if for some reason he could be summoned in a proper circumstance, he'd be a Saber. Which actually makes sense. Because, you know, obviously the whole gatekeeping thing was because of Medea. That's not part of him as his actual life. But he doesn't really have a proper class because he's not a heroic spirit, but if you could summon him as a proper class, and there wasn't all the Medea nonsense. And the thing is, the Saber slot had already been filled, right? So it kind of forced him into the Assassin class, but his proper class is Saber. I mean, True Lancer is probably going to be Sigma. Because there is no true Lancer right now, and Watcher has basically said that, like, I can't, it's been dude, I haven't read some of the older books of Fate Strange Fake in so long because they've been out for so long, but I don't remember exactly how Watcher words it, but basically Watcher's goal is to turn Sigma into True Lancer, and it's like his fate or something, right? So it's kind of weird like that, but yeah, right now there is no True Lancer. And it's not like the true servants, because there basically was supposed to be, the whole thing with Fate Strange Fake is there was supposed to be a Grail War, right? And the true servants are the ones that were just supposed to be summoned, right? And the fake ones weren't, right? And they're like, they've been like, you know, hijacked, and it's like a whole thing, right? So the fake ones, they're not like fake servants, right? You know, fake Archer is Gilgamesh, for God's sakes. You know, he's not a fake. It's just they're not part of like what the war that was supposed to happen. Like they're not supposed it's fuckery, right? So like all the fake servants are just like, none of them are counterfeits, right? Like that's not how it works. But like some of them are obviously are not like normally summonable. So there is that, right? I know Gilgamesh being the fake Archer is kind of funny. But yeah, the true ones, and that's why there's no the basically because like the fucked up war doesn't have a saber, because, you know, lol, saber's the strongest class and blah blah blah, but like, because it's messed up, it doesn't have a saber, and there's only a true saber, right? Because the true war would obviously, you know, have a saber and whatnot, so there's only one saber, which is, you know, Richard, the Lionheart. I honestly don't remember, like, Sigma's not a normal person, and I honestly cannot remember how the fuck he's supposed to become true Lancer. I don't fucking remember. I haven't read it in way too long. Maybe someone in chat remembers, but I don't remember what the process is for what they're trying to accomplish there. And if I remember, I may be out of my fucking mind, but if I remember correctly, isn't Sigma the child of what the fuck her name, the chick from Fate Zero that was like, you know, Kuretsugu's you know, teammate and all that? What the I don't remember her name. Maya, right? Am I out of my mind? But isn't that I thought that's right. Not that that really matters, but yeah, because like she had like a, you know, war orphan or some nonsense. Yeah, she's his mother, right? I thought I knew someone was. I just couldn't remember if it was him or not. But yeah, I think that seems like I'm right about that. But yeah, he's got a weird life, by the way. It's the father's not Kuretsugu. That would be really weird if he was, though, because you know, Emiya and everything like that. What a mess that would be. Yeah, I want more Pale Rider. I want more Humbaba. You know, we need more. You know, Richard. Oh God, we need more Richard. Richard is all. I love Richard, dude. Like every word out of that man's mouth is amazing. His fight with Gilgamesh is great. Like, it's so... I love the way they did it, because they didn't really, like... Like, they were able to show off both characters really well, right? And it's just... the way they did that fight was great. I hope... Whenever it's animated, I hope they do it well, because, that fight is awesome. And like, it's really good because like it shows off Richard being really powerful and being able to like actually, you know, make Gilgamesh have to try. But you know, he's kind of cocky too, and it ends with him getting face planted in a church, which is just it's just really funny. Like with everything that happens leading up to that, and he's not, he doesn't like, you know, he's not like dead or anything. You know, he's fine, but you know, he kind of gets knocked down up for a second there, and he gets whacked into a church. But I just think that, with the context of like the conversation he's having with Gil and everything, it's kind of great. And then you get to see Gilgamesh get arrow juggled by Excalibur spam, which is pretty hilarious. So I can't wait for that to get animated. Like basically, like Richard has proved himself to Enkidu, right? So Enkidu's like, okay, it's cool if we team up. And then Gil's like, oh no, I gotta test this myself. Like Enkidu's word's not good enough, right? And then you know, Richard is doing a lot of, you know, disrespectful nonsense and gets Gil kind of mad. But then the fight's been going on long enough that Richard is so fast, he's able to spam his Excalibur so quickly, it's like a continuous beam. And Gil summons a bunch of shields out of Gate of Babylon, and they can block Excalibur, but Richard is firing it so rapidly, he's air juggling Gilgamesh, which is pretty funny. But then Gil, and then it's actually getting so bad that Gil's master thinks, she's like, oh shit, I think I need to use a command spell to teleport Gil out of that, and then Gil's like, nonsense, and then Gil's able to get out of it on his own, but then he knocks you know, Richard into a church, you know, which is like, you know, biblical. But apparently, overall, I think Gil actually is impressed with Richard, and like he is okay with like Enkidu teaming up with him and everything. Because basically, he's like, I have to make sure you're worthy to team up with Enkidu, right? And then he gets air juggled, right? So, it's pretty great. Like, it's a really good scene because it gets to show off both of their abilities pretty well and characterize them both pretty well, and they don't have to do any plot armor or anything. So, it's pretty great. There's so many scenes in Fate Strange Fake Man that I just can't wait to see. Like animated, assuming they get done well. Obviously if they do a bad job, I'm gonna be pissed, but... Dude, Richard is. I like. First off, like they did a really good job of like making him. Kind of mimic what he was about in life, where he's like, you know, obsessed with, he's a real person that was like obsessed with the legends that weren't real and everything, right? They did a really good job with all that kind of stuff, because he made a sword and named it Excalibur, right, and all that kind of stuff. And so he's a real person that did that, right? So they just did such a good job with like making his toolkit interesting and good, and like a proper servant, and but unique and different, but then very much referencing. What he was actually about, and stuff. So they really did a good job. Yeah, and he has an ability that this is so weird. This is the one really weird thing. And it is based on, some of this, like, him as a person and everything, so I get where they got it from, but he, as far as I understand, basically before he gets summoned, he gets to like, he's like hanging out in the Throne of Heroes, right? And other people in the Throne of Heroes can tag along with him if they want to. And then they're not going to manifest as like their full-on selves, but they're basically shadow servants that can kind of, like help him and whatnot. And so depending on like who agrees to come along with him kind of will dictate how strong he ends up being, because he kind of gets lesser versions of like their abilities and whatnot, and they can like communicate and like give information and things like that. And so it's kind of wild that like you can have all these like tag along like people that are like in his shadow basically. Yeah, they're kind of like wisps or phantoms, and they're literally like part of his shadow. And we don't know who all of them are right now, because like different people can agree or decide not to come. One of them is definitely a Knight of the Round. One of them is like a Shogun, I think. I forgot some of the other ones. One of them is like a Magus and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. They gave a. I'm really curious who the Knight of the Round is, because I think it's going to be one of the ones that's a bit lesser known. So I'm hoping it's like Boris or something, or Boris, not Boris, but I'm hoping it's one of those. Like, that'd be awesome. They probably won't ever be summonable in FGO because, FGO. But if that means we ever get a little bit more information about them, or maybe a design, that would be awesome. And maybe they'll show up in an attack, like an extra attack animation or something. So yeah, I really hope it's something like Boris or something like that. Because I don't think it's going to be one of like the known, like really mainstream ones that we already have a design for. Like, Lancelot, Gwaine, things like that. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. Oh yeah, one of them is one of the Robin Hoods. That's right. Like, because they've said that there's many people that can be summoned as Robin Hood, right? Yeah, one of them is one of them. That's awesome. So maybe we'll get a more classical Robin too. So yeah, I'm really happy about that kind of stuff. Yeah, Boris is one of my favorite Knights of the Round because he's lesser known, but he actually accomplished a lot, and he was like, he's one of the more impressive Knights of the Round, but then he's not known so well, right? So it's just kind of an really interesting character, and then the mythos and everything. Some people don't seem to like Richard because of the whole, like, no one seems like an Arthur or Toria wannabe, but I really like him, so. One of the last living Knights of the Round. Well, that could be a few people. There's several people that could be, and then also in the Fate timeline they might change some things. That does cross out a few people though. Well, see, a lot of the okay, so there's different, there's different versions of the Robin Hood story, but a lot of them do have to do with Prince John, right? And that's kind of combining real elements with fictional ones. But that he is a real person, right? Like, and when Richard was away and he kind of ran the place for a while and that kind of thing, like that stuff is real. Richard dies the Richard in Camelot. Gareth like sacrifices herself to let like Gwaine kill him, if I remember correctly. Actually, it's not necessarily a fake Richard. They don't say what he is, and they did this because they were afraid of like accidentally stepping on the toes of Fate Strange Fake. Right? This happens all the time, where the different writers, they try not to step on each other's toes and whatnot, especially when things aren't like fully fleshed out. Like Asterios wasn't fully fleshed out yet, and that's why he's not fully spawned in Fate Labyrinth. They don't really say what the deal is. They just say he's not the typical Richard that we've seen in Fate Strange Fake, right? He's like older and that kind of thing. But like I don't think they're ever going to explain what he actually was. I don't think they're going to. It could just be like an alternate class. There's no telling. But they're not. We know he is not the Richard from Fate Strange Fake. Like we know that. But we don't know if he's like a phony or we don't know. But they said he was very powerful. Like I don't think any of the Knights of the Round would have been able to beat him 1v1. Like he was too strong for that. So he's whoever the fuck he was really fucking powerful. But Gareth like sacrifices herself, and then Gwaine kills Richard and Gareth. So yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, it could be like just an alternate class for him. It could be him in life instead of a servant. It could be an altered version. Like who knows? Yeah, I mean, he was fighting Tristan and all. I'm pretty sure all the Knights of the Round were there because he had his own forces though. Like obviously they weren't like servants or anything, but presumably they had a way to make them stronger, and they were fighting all of Lion King's forces. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like it could be kind of like Charlemagne, right? It's kind of one of those things. You can also read Camelot Zero on Beastslayer. Actually, that's about the only place I know where you can get information about it. Because it wasn't like a full book. It was kind of like a pamphlet, from what I understand. It was like a kind of a short, prologue to Camelot that they made later, right? And they just called it Camelot Zero. But that's where we learned like basically all the Knights of the Round were summoned, and the ones for the few exceptions. And the ones you don't see sided against the Lion King, and they ended up, dying. And presumably some of them probably sided with the Lion King, and then they died too for whatever reason, because like they don't. A lot of the knights are not accounted for, but presumably pretty much every Knight of the Round was summoned. I'm pretty sure the only one that wasn't summoned was Galahad, because he just refuses to summon. But yeah, there were some of the knights, didn't side with her because she's a nut job, and they died, but there was like a big battle between them and the other knights and whatnot. But presumably it wasn't really a fair fight because of the Lion King, right? But exactly how it unfolds, they don't really say. Yeah, I think they'll let us summon Agravain eventually. They actually even said that they wanted to. Oh my god, this was so long ago. And there's a picture of like they were having like a Q&A or something. And there's a picture of like the servants they were talking about. They basically said there's a bunch of servants that they wanted to make playable eventually that had like shown up as NPCs, and they were like, yeah, we're planning on making these playable eventually. And they showed a picture to like the panel or whatever, and it was like, I'm trying to remember, it was Nukehead, because she wasn't playable back then, because they actually showed Nukehead as an NPC back in Go West, right? But she didn't become playable until way later. But it was her, Jason, Agravain, there's a few other ones I'm forgetting. I think Seda, however you say her name, but I'm kind of thinking now they're not going to do that because of Arcade. I swear I'm at least forgetting one. But Agravain was one of them, so I do think he'll be summonable at some point. Because, obviously they eventually did do Jason and Nukehead and some of the other ones that were on there. The thing is, back then, Arcade didn't exist, so I think they actually were planning on using her. But because Arcade is a thing now, I don't think they're planning on using her anymore. Like, I don't think they're going to add Robin to or they're not going to add Rama to Arcade either. Like, I think that's what they're going to do, unless they're planning on doing an event or something that kind of bridges the gap, right? And it's like a whole thing. So maybe, maybe they're making us think it's going to be this whole shtick and they're separated and it's awful, but maybe they have some kind of event or whatever, and like a collab with because Arcade is like its own timeline, and like the events are playing out very differently and stuff. So maybe there's like a collab between them at some point. Yeah, I joked about that they might add Circade to Arcade instead. So Cirque, I think a lot of people really misunderstand his character. So Sir Kay is one of the few people that knows Artoria is a woman, right? He knows she's not actually Arthur, she's actually Artoria. You know, he's her stepbrother, right? So he like grew up with her. So he actually knows her really well, right? Like he saw her like wanting to, you know, grow up and become a king and you know, all the you know, getting Caliburn and all this stuff. So he knows Artoria pretty much better than anyone, and he really cares about Artoria, right? You know, he's her brother, right? So not surprising. But he sees the decision process that she has and the way she pushes herself, and how she's like obsessed with this, you know, ideal of a king, and it all, but nothing even comes of it, right? It's like it's so obvious that this is going to end in tragedy, right? But she doesn't seem to see that, and she like almost tries, you know, futile and just you know, she struggles, you know, for no reason in his mind, right? And she's wasting her life, and you know, the kingdom's going to be doomed eventually anyway, right? That's kind of how he sees it. And he knows that deep down, it's funny because he's actually right. Kay is not wrong. He is correct, because this is shown later in Fate's Day Night and in the true ending and all that kind of stuff. Deep down, Artoria just wants to be a regular fucking, you know, girl, right? And just, you know, live Little House on the Prairie or whatever, right? Like, literally that's all she wants, right? But she's like fooling herself into trying to be this idealist, it's a king and all these things. And he's just like, this is, you know, it's dumb, you know, she's wasting her life, and, you know, everyone's just gonna end up dead, and, you know, he literally says bollocks, right? It's like what's the point of this? And so, you know, at the, you know, near the end, you know, he sees all this stuff coming, and, you know, he kind of is in this is from Garden of Avalon, by the way, the drama CD. He's talking to Merlin, and he's basically just saying, you know, it's pointless, she's wasting her life, and this isn't even what she wants, right? And he doesn't see any point in, you know, partaking in this whole shit show at the end, because it's futile, right? It doesn't matter. So he just leaves. You know, he's like, you know, he's so frustrated with the whole situation, and he sails for, you know, different lands and wants to, you know, start a new life, right? And then in Camelot he gets summoned, and it's kind of same shit, right? It's like because they've kind of characterized Sir Kay as like on the surface he's very argumentative, he's very, you know, rough, but you know, deep down, you know, he's got a lot of integrity and those kinds of things. And so, like, you know, he's just super against what Lion King is about, you know, all this Iron Fist nonsense. And, you know, obviously he cares about Artoria a lot because it's his sister, but, you know, he sides against Lion King because, you know, Lion King is, you know, kind of nuts. And so he's obviously conflicted about it, but, you know, ultimately he sides with what he thinks is right, and, you know, he dies trying to stop Lion King. So that's kind of his thing, is he's got a lot of integrity, and even though he cares about Artoria more than, like, anybody, he calls her on her bullshit, because, you know, she is pretty out of it. But yeah, it's pretty sad, the whole shtick, because, you know, he literally sees what's happening, you know, way in advance, and, you know, he actually knows what Artoria would be happier doing, because he's not wrong, right? It's not like he's guessing, right? Because when what you see in Face Tonight and the true ending and everything, he's right, like, you know, he's correct about these things, and, you know, what she did ended up being pretty pointless, but... Yeah, basically he cares about her more than just about anybody, but he's not blind to the problems of what's going on, right? And yeah, that is pretty common to siblings. You know, a lot of that happens a lot when you have like a good relationship with a sibling. You know, they're generally pretty capable of calling you on your bullshit because they know you better than anybody. Now that's not always true. You know, sometimes you have really bad relationships. Like I have a brother I'm not even remotely close to, and I not only are we not close, but I would never be like, oh yeah, I know him really well. I really don't, and he certainly doesn't know me very well. So it's like that's how it is. But I mean, the thing is, there was no getting her out of it. That was the thing. I mean, he had tried before. It's like she was not going to diverge from her path, and that's why he's like, why I ain't dying for this. Like, there's no point, because it was pointless. The whole thing was pointless, and it did end in tragedy, and so why die for it? Like, the thing is, he's not a coward. You know, he'll die for something if he thinks it's worth dying for, and that's what happens in Camelot Zero. He does die for it, right? But you know, all the Battle of Camelot stuff was pointless, right? It was literally pointless. Honestly, I would say Sir Kay and Merlin pretty much know her the same, and I would say Kay is a way better source than Merlin because Sir Kay is a lot more capable of actually caring for her. You know, Merlin wants to be nice, but he really isn't. You know, he's kind of a psychopath. Because, yeah, Merlin understands Artoria pretty well, but he's also the worst guardian I think ever conceived, so... Artoria, no, Artoria, yes, everyone. But yeah, I want, oh my god, it's like, first off, his design is really good. I really like Sir Kay's design, it looks really nice, right? And then his voice actor is one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. And then I really like characters that have like a lot of integrity and all those kinds of things and stuff. And then a lot of his like surface level personality stuff I like too. So I'm not exaggerating when I say Sir Kay is like my favorite Knight of the Round Table, right? He's fucking awesome. And because he has a voice actor and he has a design and he's already been characterized quite a lot, I'd be like, yeah, it'd be pretty cool if, I don't know, you'd actually put him in the fucking game. Yeah, like Aries says, Merlin doesn't really have human emotions, right? So he really is kind of like psychotic, right? Like he's like mimicking human emotion in many ways, right? He wants what's best for Artoria, but he definitely doesn't know what's best for Artoria, and he actually causes more problems for her than anything, really. But yeah, we also got more characterization from Sir Kay way back in Fate Hollow. Like, we actually first learned about him in Fate Hollow because Artoria talks about him a fair bit. Funnily enough, though, she actually like defends him, right? Like, a lot of the people around in Fate Hollow are like, wow, he sounds like awful, but she's like, not at all. And then we learned from a craft essence that Sir Kay is a freakishly good swimmer. It's one of those summer craft essences with the Knights of the Round, you know, and basically it just says Sir Kay is just like, all the Knights basically are like, this is ridiculous, like how good he is at swimming. And then we know he's not as good as Artoria with like the blade. Like Artoria says, you know, he's very skilled. It's not like he's, you know, a chump. All the Knights of the Round know what they're doing. But he's not as good as Artoria with, you know, bladesmanship. But he's the best swimmer ever, apparently. The thing is, Merlin, I don't really think, like, his main objective wasn't being a good dad at all. I mean, his main objective was, you know, more grand scale stuff, and Artoria ultimately was kind of a tool to him. But, you know, he doesn't, like, hate Artoria or anything. But really, Artoria is a tool to him, like, very much so. And, like, that's why he literally abandons her and starts doing other things, right? Like, it's kind of messed up. Like, Merlin is, and again, he's not trying to be a shithead, but he is a shithead, right? Like, he is a piece of trash. There's a reason Foe, you know, feels the way about him that he does, right? It's not for no reason. You know how Rex is always, you know, giving me the Honako, you know, look, right? That's Foe to Merlin, pretty much, so. Yeah, he is pretty much a dumpster fire. It's pretty accurate. Awesome dumpster fire, but yeah, he's a mess. I mean, a lot of people taught Artoria the Blade, like her first teacher is Merlin, but then she learned from like that Guardian guy that I don't remember the fucking name of, and Sir Kay, but what is his name? It's like, cause Sir Kay learned from him too, and he is the same in Fate as in the real story. Fuck, what is his name? I don't remember his goddamn name, dude. He's a pretty big, Sir Ector, I think that's it. I think that's, I'm not 100% sure that's it, but I think that's it. But yeah, she learned from a lot of different people. But yeah, Merlin was like her first teacher generally, and then Sir Kay, and then like Hector, and I think it's Hector, I may be wrong about that. And then obviously she learns on her own plenty from just her own, you know, adventures and whatnot, and you know, she's surrounded by knights and everything. Honestly, Proto Merlin and Merlin are probably going to have very similar abilities ultimately. I'm sure there'll be some differences, but everyone's saying it is. Hector or Ector, or however the fuck to say it. Yeah, that sounds right. They've actually changed a few things about like the paths of Artoria over time. Like there's a few like minor details they've actually twinked here and there, and they always chuck that up to different timelines, such as like ACOG and everything. So it's like sometimes it's kind of hard to nail down the exact canon for the paths for Artoria, but welcome to Fate bullshit. So a lot of the stuff in arcade I don't think is going to come to regular FGO. It's like a selling point, but some of them probably will eventually. And I feel like Proto Merlin, like the thing is, you gotta understand they're different developers, right? So it's not as simple as, oh, this is an arcade, so we'll just use it, right? A lot of times they can't. Now, Type Moon owns this was part of their contract. Type Moon owns all the rights to the characters, right? So, but it's up to them to decide, where they're gonna, who they're gonna give to what and what, how these things are gonna be used. And so for the arcade developers, it's in their best interest for the regular FGO not to have a lot of these servants, right? They're gonna push for that to be exclusive because it's a selling point for their game, right? Because they don't even have the same publisher, for God's sakes, right? They're just working with the same IP. There's no shared profits between arcade and regular FGO. They don't have the same publisher. They're just both working with Type Moon, right? So from the developer of arcade's perspective, they like landed the golden goose, right, with Proto Merlin, right? They're like, oh, this is a big waifu everyone's gonna be super hype about. I don't think they're gonna want that in FGO, right? Now, the FGO devs are obviously gonna want that in FGO, right? But they may not be able to get the rights to it, and it may not work out, right? So it honestly just may never happen, right? So the stuff that happens behind the scenes can get pretty complicated with these kinds of things. It's just like with Marvel movies and Fox and the X-Men, how messed up that got, right? It's kind of similar to that. I don't know. I mean, I would not say it's like, oh, Proto Merlin's going to be in a prototype event. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to be that simple because, again, you have contracts and rights. Because for all we know, Type Moon made a deal with the developers of Arcade, and they said, okay, we'll do this if you let it be exclusive, to us. But it might be like for a certain amount of years, or God knows what these, the contracts and agreements end up being. So it's like it may just not happen. We may just not get Proto Merlin, but that might not be the case at all, and maybe it's like, oh, maybe it's a timed exclusive, or maybe it's not exclusive at all. We don't know. But if you look at the business side of it, it would not be shocking if the arcade version wouldn't want it in the regular game, because they don't benefit from that, right? Again, it's different publishers, different developers, right? There's no money connection there other than they're working with Type Moon. Funnily enough, Rama's Curse of Separation is actually a lower rank. His is like, I think it's A rank. And Sita's is EX. I don't know why. I have absolutely no idea why, and I don't know if that means literally anything, but that is kind of strange that it's like that. Like, you'd think the rank would be exactly the same. Oh, the Fate X remake? I am pretty sure it's confirmed to be on PC. I'm pretty sure. Like, there's no way that's an accident, because, there's no way when they were making her skill set and everything, there's no way they didn't reference Rama real quick, right? Obviously they did, so that is definitely intentional. I just wonder why. And if I remember correctly, they get the curse from a witch because they, like, killed their husband or something. I don't really remember. There's some bullshit with a witch. That's all I remember. That's why they're cursed, and obviously it carries over after death. But yeah, if they ever do something with that character, like the witch or whatever, maybe that I don't know. I would not be surprised if they just never, they never have them together. We'll see. But they might try to have it be not a permanent thing, but I don't know. There's a little bit of news about the anime remake, but nothing major. I like how they showed off the designs years ago. I don't know if Rule Breaker would work because it's more about contracts and things like that. It's not exactly that kind of thing. It's hard to, now, if Medea might be able to get rid of it anyway, just because Medea's got so much knowledge in magic in so many fields, like, so yeah, you know, maybe she could do it anyway. I don't know if Rule Breaker would be the trick or not, but it's kind of hard to do though because it's kind of tied to their spiritual core, right? It's not like, because like the servant is just like a projection in a way. From what they are in the Throne of Heroes, and they're in the Throne of Heroes with that curse, right? So that's the problem. Like, even if you got rid of it on a servant version of the person, that wouldn't be permanent. You know, if they're summoned again, it would just come back. And sometimes you can do things that change people's saint graphs permanently, but that's very rare and it's very difficult to do. And they don't normally want to do that in terms of Fate because they don't want to portray the actual story, right? Because in the actual story, they didn't lose the curse, right? So... Oh, I'm beyond sure Gil has something, but he probably wouldn't do anything anyway. And but I mean, Gil literally has like every noble phantasm ever, so I'm sure he's got some nonsense. But I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, there's so many things that you probably could do, but you don't in this game because you have every servant and none. There's no, it's like. FGO is so weird in the way they handle the story like that. You have like every servant, but you also have no servants, and it just like depends, right? It's all very silly. And so there's all kinds of like plot points and shit that if you actually had access to the servants that you do, obviously would be completely different. So I don't think they're going to reference that. I think if they wanted to get rid of the Curse of Separation, they would do it in like an event or whatever, and it would be like a part of like that event and the characters that are in that story, right? Like that's how they would do it. Like obviously you might be able to theory craft the way that you could logically do it. You know, just in Chaldea, which you probably could, right? But they're not going to use that, right? Because, you know, storytelling. The wife of a monkey? I didn't know that. Yeah, I like their excuse for why you don't summon Gil in that one story is so bad. That was some of the most cringeworthy, like, you know, plot exposition nonsense I've ever seen. That was so bad. Like, yeah, Gil would be pretty good here, but you know, these people don't have a perception of a servant that was that powerful. It's like, okay, just stop. It's like, just stop. I'd literally rather you say we don't want to do that because it would ruin the story. You can just say that. It's fine. Like, dear God. Because Gil and like Achilles and you know so many servants would just ruin the singularities if they were there, and it's not gonna play out the way they want, and the drama's out the window, and you know all kinds of things. So I pay so little attention to this stage when I'm playing it that like I honest to God have no idea what I've been doing over the last like hour. I am not been paying attention in the slightest to my turns. Like, Jesus Christ. Rama is really powerful, but yeah, he's certainly not the most powerful thing from mythology. What of Martha's skill should I level first? Which Martha are we talking about here? Well, I know what I've been doing with chat, I just don't know what I've been doing in FGO. I hate streams like this. I don't mind talking to chat, that's great, but I hate when the gameplay is so bad, dude, and it's like I don't even have a choice. And I have to get a CE drop, dude. I'm so mad that I got it on my fucking newbie account, dude. I was gonna look up something, but I already forgot what it was. Hi, Rex. We actually were just talking about you pun-wowing me. Basically, you're my your foe, or you know, with Merlin, right? How he feels about Merlin, right? It's kind of that. You know, Merlin being a dumpster fire and all that. But yeah, we are surely going to get, a Knight of the Round in Lost Belt 6, but I don't know which one. Also, you keep asking me that, but you don't, that's not a question, right? Like, that's like asking what's better, Mash or Hans? I mean, it's like, that's not a question. Like, it depends on what the fuck you're doing. It's not like universally one of these things is going to be better than the other. It's everything's context specific. It might be Percival, because Percival does have, he is famous for using a lance. But I don't know, I still think it might be that the half-giant guy, because he also is famous for using a lance, and that is one big boy, right? Now, sure, they might just make Percival a big boy cuz, right? I mean, they've done all kinds of things just cuz, so, I mean, who knows? But they're both famous for using a lance, but that one guy is a half-giant, and so it would kind of make more sense if it was him instead of Percival. But it could be Percival, we'll see. It also could be a different knight that does not have a famous lance, and they just gave them a lance, just cuz. Or spear, actually, literally no difference. But, you know, we'll see. I think it's you know, Galahunt, however you say his name, or Percival. I think those are the most likely, because they're famous for using a spear, right? But it could be anybody. But I would say it's pretty likely to be a Knight of the Round, or at least someone connected to Arthurian legend, because, you know, it's in Camelot, and he's wearing, you know, armor and blah blah blah. You gotta have at least one, right? But unfortunately, I think there's going to be several that, you know, I don't think we're going to get a lot of new Knights of the Round. I don't think we're going to get a lot of Camelot-related stuff. Watch it be a Paladin of Charlemagne? Yeah, I mean, it could happen. But the way FGO is, and they literally said, you know, people are never going to guess what's in Lost Belt 6, so I think it's a bunch of stupid shit. Like, and everyone's thinking Camelot, and they're like, oh, lol, lol, it's actually this other thing that no one actually cares. I think I'm just so ready to be so disappointed by Lost Belt 6. Back when they announced the Lost Belts years ago, you know, they gave all the hints to each one, I was 1,000,000% the most excited for Lost Belt 6, right? And I was also pretty excited for Lost Belt 5, but it was, you know, 6 and 5 were the two I was like, yep, that's what I care about. And as time has gone on, I have just become less and less hype about it, and now I'm gotten to the point where I'm like, I feel like they're gonna add nothing I care about. It's just gonna be a bunch of weird, stupid shit. Like, it's gonna be America again. It sucks, man. You know, I've been wanting, like, proper Camelot stuff, because there's so much stuff they just never touched on, and they hinted at. Like, you know, I want Vortigern and Morgan and those kinds of things, right? Give us the meat. But no. They just, we can't have nice things. Now, even if they butcher the fuck out of it, maybe the random nonsense we get that has nothing to do with anything, you know, it could still be cool. You know, they could still add good stuff. But I gotta tell you, all the designs I saw in the trailer, like the anime opening, I didn't really like any of them. The knight was fine, you know, the big boy was fine, and like the things we'd already seen are fine, like Kotomine and Kastraku and stuff. But like all the new stuff that we saw, other than Big Boy, I did not care for. I did not care for a single one of them. Like, I would not roll it unless they turn out to have just fucking god tier personalities and are super interesting. I don't care about any of those. Like, not a single one of those. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? So it's not a good start. Now, some of those things might not even be in Lost Belt 6, right? Seriously, some of those things might not even be in Lost Belt 6. We'll just have to see. But yeah, I'm kind of expecting Lost Belt 6 to be a bunch of nonsense. Okay, I care about Ort, obviously, right? But that part was more of like the prelude to Lost Belt 7, obviously, not you know, Lost Belt 6 stuff. Obviously, Ort's awesome, but even Ort, though, I doubt he's gonna be playable, right? He'll be an enemy, but I don't think he's gonna be playable. We're not gonna get the White Dragon. The White Dragon's just gonna get killed to make Tam awesome. Like, they're just all about that Tam plotline. So it's like, they're not gonna build up Tam like that and then have her be like, oh, I wanna get that dragon, and then have her fail, right? That's not gonna happen, right? Obviously the dragon is just gonna be a plot device to make her stronger. Like, that's obviously what they're gonna do. Like, maybe he does something before that, but it ain't gonna happen. Yeah, the Black Dock thing is probably next. Dude, I'm so mad. They said, like, what the fuck? They said the next main story, not event, not like event tie-in. They said the next main story is a prologue, not epilogue, a prologue to Lost Belt 5. I have never heard a bigger load of bullshit in my life, right? And they went on to say that they're doing all these like, yeah, there was an interview with Nasu and what's his face. Now, I don't know if the translation was good at all. I mean, so often these things get bullshit translated. And I did not look into like how legit the translation was. I didn't look into that in the slightest. So the translation could be horseshit. But basically they said the next, God, I hate this. Everything in that interview pissed me off. So they basically said, assuming the translation is legit, but they basically said that the reason they're doing all of this, like, you know, Lost Belt 5-1, 5-2, and then prologue, and, you know, all this in-between bullshit, is because there's Lost Belt 6 and 7 alone would not be enough time for them to, like, set enough groundwork and, like, and to, like, you know, foreshadow enough to, like, to do the story properly. That's what they said. And that is horseshit. That's just horseshit. I guarantee you, whatever the ultimate plot of 6 and 7 ends up being, you would not need all this other nonsense build. It's just stupid. These are just excuses to drag it out. I mean, we'll see, you know. And then they said the next main story was going to be a prologue, not an epilogue, a prologue to Lost Belt 5. And I'm like, what the fuck? I love Lost Belt 5, but it's done, right? There's no like, oh, if only this had been like this. There's no missing stuff. It's done. The story's done. We don't need any more story for Lost Belt 5 for Jesus Christ. I cannot believe that's the just someone stop me. Like, oh. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna have that, and then probably like, you know, 5.5. Then they'll finally do Lost Belt 6, and then they'll do like 6.5 and like an event, and then they'll do some other, you know, bullshit, and then some other bullshit, and then they'll do Lost Belt 7, but then some other bullshit after. Like, they're gonna drag this out for so long. It sucks, dude. Like, I cannot believe the next story is a fucking prologue. Can someone check the translation though? I swear they had to have said epilogue instead. Like what? Like, you can't make the next main story a fucking prologue. Like, that is so insane. Like, I'm really hoping it's supposed to be epilogue. Yeah, if we get playable Wadim out of it, great. But I know, I'm not holding my goddamn breath. I think if we get anything wild, like playable Zeus, or playable Wadim, or playable Guadia, or Tiamat, I think that's gonna be at like the end, right? It's gonna be when all this shit's hitting the fan. It's going to be when things are unraveling, because obviously the whole Lost Belt scenario is going to end, and a lot of the stuff that was established is going to be undone, and we're going to go back to like a normal timeline and everything. So we're going to have all kinds of, like, you know, dimension-breaking bullshit nonsense. So like, if we get like Pan history or Pan history, you know, regular Zeus, right? Or if we get Guadia, we get Tiamat, you know, if Wadim comes back or is revived because the Lost Belts are over or whatever, it's going to be at the end, right? It's going to be at the end. So, I'm not expecting anything crazy like Zeus or Wadim anytime soon. And potentially never, unfortunately, but okay, if we get Sane Herc, that's worth it. If we get Sane Herc, that's worth it. But I don't think we're going to get that, but I mean, maybe. If I will say, if we did get that, I'll give him a pass. It's not worth. We could have just gotten Zane Herc without all this bullshit, right? But you know, we'll see. So you know, normally I do, you know, solos or low rarity stuff or budget friendly stuff or whatever. But if we ever get to fight Beryl, if it's ever a gameplay thing where we fight Beryl, I'm obviously just going to kill him with Canis, right? We gotta make that happen. And even if the classes don't synergize and I have to use like nonsense to make it happen, but that's got to go down. There has been a lot of tree punching, yes. Yeah, and in that interview they said, as they have said before, that they can't wait to show off Lost Belt 6, and no one is gonna guess how you know what the servants are gonna be. It's gonna be so crazy, right? And I'm just like, oh no. Like every time they say shit like that, I just have flashbacks to like America, the America Singularity, right? And like and like Rush. We've had so many singularity, and like the Norse one. Oh my god, that was the worst. I love Norse mythology, right? And that was like, God, the wasted potential in that one. Oh my god. Space Green Knight, please no. I don't think we're gonna get Green Knight. I think we're gonna get almost nothing from Camelot. Which I think is such a stupid thing to do, because there's, you know, the stuff they might put in might be, you know, interesting and you know, worthy of being focused on at some point, but this isn't the time to do it, right? Because they've debated Camelot so many times. But they've debated Camelot so many times, and then they built it up so much this time, right? The hint word was Land of the Knights of the Round. They said that the white dragon that like Vortigern's supposed to drink the dragon blood of is there, and all this stuff, you know, and they've had Rongo Bongo fired up. They've obviously tried to imply, you know, Camelot stuff so heavily, but they're obviously just gonna pull the carpet underneath us, right? And it's gonna be like hardly anything Camelot related at all, right? And I'm just tired of that, man. I'm so tired of why does everything have to be like that? Right? Why does everything have to be the, oh, you thought it was going to be just straightforward this, but it's actually space monkeys, right? Why does it always have to be that way? Like, why can't we ever just get down-to-earth normal stuff? Like, for fuck's sakes, can we just have some regular settings? I'm so tired of all the weird shit. The weird shit has become so standard, it's not even weird anymore, right? It's just the standard fare, right? It's fucking boring, right? Like, I'm really tired of it. Like, I want an event, like I've always said this, I want an event that's just, you know, like just a Robin Hood event. That's just set in Nottingham, right? Like, sure, you can have some, like, evil behind the curtains or whatever, and some things that aren't supposed to be there. But, you know, you want Little John, you want the sheriff, you want, you know, like, Jesus Christ, like, that would, of course that would be cool, right? But nope, can't have that. You gotta have a Robin Hood event that's actually, you know, space or, you know, futuristic or, you know, whatever the fuck, you know, and you'll have, like, literally nothing from the actual story there. It's like, I'm so tired of that. They do it over and over again, unless it's Japanese. Right? Because if it's Japanese, then, oh no, now we can have a classical Japanese setting, and every goddamn servant's Japanese, right? Like, it's just, you know, and I'm not, it's not like I think Japan's not, you know, worthy of having that treatment. It is. But like if you're gonna do a Japanese story, yeah, you should make it like really Japanese and have a lot of Japanese servants, sure. But I'm so tired of like, they only do that for Asian stuff, and then every time it's Irish or it's American or it's you know, it's Indian or whatever, they gotta throw in a million fucking bullshit elements that I got nothing to do with anything. It's just so frustrating, dude. It's like, why does only the Asian stuff get the proper shake and everyone else gets, you know, space bullshit? And even the Irish, I don't think have gotten it their shake. Everyone's like, oh, but they did all the Celtic stuff in America. But like, nobody, I like Celtic stuff, sure, but not. I would rather have a singularity, you know, in their own setting, right? Instead of them, you know, for some reason being in America, for God's sakes. It's just like, good God, like, it's like this, you end up scuffing everyone when you do that. You know, you're making it so all the Celtic stuff's not getting a fair shake, and then you're making it where America really doesn't get a fair shake. You know, I just don't I really do like how Shimosa is one of the only stories they've ever done. By the way, I don't have the anti-stun command code on her. I don't know why. I guess I'm unequipped to give it to someone else. But anyway, Shimosa is one of the only times they really gave a fair shake to the subject matter. You know, it's very classical Japanese stuff. Every single character is Japanese. The setting is just Japan. It's not space Japan. It's just, you know, regular, you know, Japan. And it's actually the time frame that they, you know, where things are, you know, from and everything, and, you know, the stories, you know, focusing a lot on, you know, all the Blade Master nonsense and everything, right? So it's like, that's one of the only stories I can think of where the, you know, they actually kind of did a more grounded take on what you would expect, right? Yeah, Asclepius was in India instead of Lost Ball 5. That was actually like an example I used a while ago where I was talking about, like, there's a difference between the land and the people of the land. It's like if I use this example because this is obviously the opposite of what might happen, but I think this is funny and also kind of deserved. So it's like, if America became a province of Canada, right? Because everyone would always say the other way around, right? They would always say, you know, if Canada became a state in America. But I think it's way better to say if America became a province of Canada. Anyway, but if that happened, that doesn't make George Washington Canadian, right? It doesn't work that way. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Dude, maple syrup is so much better than like the typical syrup you can get in America. Like, I actually very recently had really proper maple syrup. I'm like, my god, this is so much better. It's so rich though, you can't use a lot of it or it's like too sweet, at least in my opinion, but... Man, if I could get a seat, I should probably switch stages though. I've probably gotten the drops in this place so much that I don't need them anymore, really. I mean, I can't have enough void dust, but like the drops for like the building and whatnot, I probably don't need anymore. But I wanted the void dust. I really just want a, you know what would be nice if I get to the point where I don't need the building stuff, so I don't have to worry about the AP to drop ratio bullshit anymore, and I can just start 3-turning, because if I can 3-turn, I can probably get the CE drop decently quick. Although it certainly didn't with oh my god, I had so much Requiem, I was just spamming. I was clearing the stage so fast. And I had to use so many goddamn apples to get the fucking CE drop. I really hope that doesn't happen again. I mean, they haven't really done Americans well. The only thing I feel like they did a good job with American stuff is Billy. Now, they didn't initially do well with him because they kind of just threw him away in America and it was awful. But after that, I think they've done well with Billy. And I don't just mean because of Lost Belt 1. I mean just like the way they made his toolkit and everything. And Nasu, from what I understand, was actually heavily involved with actually doing Billy's toolkit. And he obviously, you know, tried to, you know, be like, yeah, Billy's like the best gunslinger, right? And he's got the best aim ever and everything, right? Like, he did not scuff Billy, so that's good, right? And then obviously Lost Belt 1 used his character a lot better and everything. So Billy's about the only thing that they've done a good job with when it comes to American stuff. And just North American stuff even, not just the United States, right? And he does some okay stuff with Geronimo, like he just doesn't get used much and they haven't fleshed out his abilities, and but you know, he's got some cool like bits and like interludes and events and stuff where he's like, you know, not been shown to be a twat or anything, but he doesn't really get any good screen time or anything. Did I not use the attack buff? I feel like I used the attack buff. But I mean, it's not like I mean, because like Canada, oh my god, Canada is probably the thing in North America that's been the most screwed over, right? Because I just like, yeah, they don't have like loads of like, you know, globally famous things, but they have some. And what little they have, they completely scuffed, and then they just forgot about them. Like, I know that's like the meme that you forget about Canada, but they legitimately forgot about Canada when they were writing the Bond CE for Paul. Like, there's no way around it. They just forgot. I don't think they were like, oh yeah, Canada doesn't exist. I think they legitimately forgot. Right? Like, it's just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. I don't really know how you want to, like, with Tesla's weird, right? Because he wasn't born in America, but he kind of, you know, he was adopted by it, right? So he's kind of both, right? It's kind of one of those things. But as I was saying earlier, I'm really against like retroactively changing people's nationality, And I don't, now it's fine if one, if someone like in their own time in life joins a different, country or whatever, that's fine, right? But it's like, again, if America became part of Canada, right, that doesn't retroactively make George Washington Canadian, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter if George Washington's descendants become Canadian. George Washington is not Canadian, right? And it's just like the natives, the native tribes of America are not American, right? Now, some of the tribes and stuff that are around today are, right? But their ancestors are not American, right? They are their tribes, right? Now, they inhabited the land that we now call America, right? So if you're talking about the America's history as in the land, like the United States, right? Then obviously you're gonna have to talk about them, obviously, but they are not American, right? That's silly, right? And it's like, what I was talking about was like with Britain, the people that in the land that we call Britain now are not British, right? It's ridiculous to call like the ancient Irish people, pre-Christian Irish and those things, although they inhabited the land that we call Britain, they are not British, right? And retroactively, their ancestors you may call British, but you don't call the originals that. Just like with George Washington, that's ridiculous. But people are really bad about that kind of thing, and it's because it can get confusing because who inhabits what land changes, over time. Like geographically, where Rome was, and you have Italy, and then those things do influence each other, right? And then you've got where Babylon was, or the Samaritans and stuff, right? Like it gets complicated, but with Tesla though, it is kind of awkward. Because he. It's not like he decried, his birthplace or anything, as far as I'm aware. Not at all. So, I don't generally call him an American servant because although that's kind of, it's just kind of that whole situation is kind of weird. But he's kind of both. He's kind of both. He gets to dual wield nationality, if you will. But they did do like in terms. Okay, Tesla. I think they did an excellent job with Tesla in terms. If you read his character material book. Right, like the abilities they gave him, great. They did a very good job on that stuff, right? And they made him crazy powerful, and as he should be. And then like the way they've characterized him when he gets to like talk in like Scatty's interlude is really good, right? But generally the way they use him in the main story is really, I guess everything is Roman. If we're gonna be followers of Romulus, then it's just like none of this nationality matters. It's all Roman history. It really is how he sees it, by the way. It's not even a meme. That's absolutely how he sees it. But yeah, with Tesla, the way they always use him in the main story is terrible, right? Like it's a travesty, and he's basically just boiled down to an arguing with Edison meme, right? And they just forget all the stuff in his character material book. But legitimately, the way he was in Scatty's interlude was really good. That was using his character properly, and I thought they were absolutely building that up in Lost Belt 5. Which in a way they were, but then they still used him like trash. I'm so pissed, dude. I love Lost Belt 5, but oh god, like why did they have to do that so bad? Like, not only did they just not use his character well at all and it was just a meme, they don't even represent his abilities properly. It's like, it's insane. He has an EX ranked Noble Phantasm that can be used for offense or defense, and he just gets taken out by a generic blast from Zeus like everybody else. It's not like he did better. It's not like he just dies to the generic blast like everyone else does. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just stupid, right? And then he's just a meme for the rest of the story. Like, he's an AI for the rest of the story, and he's just a meme. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, he's got the ability to absorb lightning and to become stronger. He's got, an EX ranked Noble Phantasm. He's said to be the rival of Zeus and all these. It's like, and he's literally all about like humans standing on their own and not relying on fairy tales and not relying on the gods and stuff. That's what he's about. And then humanity in Lost Belt 5 is the opposite of that. They are relying on the gods and they're not standing on their own and all these things. And they led up to that in that Scatty interlude where he's all mad about, the gods and everything, but they just don't use it, man. And it's just like, they had a gem right there and they're just like, nope, not gonna use that. Just generically dies because for some reason. But yeah, like on paper, he's like so awesome, and they've hinted at that a little bit, but they never used it. And that's why I want to like grail him to 100 and all that nonsense. And I really do like Tesla. can, I don't like the way they use him, but the actual character I think is really awesome. Who does anyone know who wrote the Scatty interlude? Because they actually did a, you know, decent, like, you know, he's not in it a lot, but they did a decent job with him. He's like the only time they've actually used his character opposed to making him an Edison joke. I did, yeah, of course. And you know, he's legitimately one of the most influential inventors on humanity, and I legitimately think that's why, you know, he's you know, he's got Pioneer of the Stars and all that, but then, like, if you look at the people that don't take bonus damage from Aya, they're pretty much all, like, founding block people for human civilization, or they're from space. Because, like, whatever the secret is about Aya, it's probably from space, right? And then, like, the people that, you know, I guess Gil has respect for and stuff that have, like, a, you know, building blocks are generally, you know, people like Tesla and Romulus and stuff like that. But yeah, isn't Tesla's Pioneer of the Stars EX rank? I'm pretty sure it is. Which, you know, it's because, you know, he's like leading humanity towards, you know, their future, right? That's like kind of how that skill works. It is NP's EX, and his galvanization is amazing. Like it's so good. Like his NP would be a problem because he's such a mana hog, but because he has galvanization, it's fine, right? And he'd be so good at fighting Zeus because of the way his galvanization works. And now Zeus would be good for fighting Tesla too. That's the thing, right? They both have these toolkits that are like, you know, play off each other. It's so interesting to do something with that, but of course they didn't. Not dead yet. She's got it. It's fine. Yeah, I need to give her that command code back. I'm pretty sure I took it off of her for something very specific, and I just never put it back on anyone. I'd imagine I don't have the anti-stun on any of my characters right now. Okay, can I get a CE drop or something? That would be swell. Okay, I imagine I have, actually, this stage does not drop the bronze mat worth a fuck, so I don't really have that many of those. But we're pretty good on the clay stuff, so I don't think I need any more of that. That just sucks though, because how much void dust did I get out of that? Not a lot. Not a lot. That really wasn't that helpful. Got like 5 or something. Let's see, so don't need clay, don't need gold drop. This mostly drops silver, I think. So I guess we'll go with that. If anybody has Nobukatsu with the silver drop, that would be nice. If you don't, no big deal. I mostly just need Nobukatsu, just because it gives, you know... Wait, what was this? This was the log? Right? The brown log? Yeah. Okay, let's see. I think that's casters. Which are awful here because we're fighting riders. Fuck. How do I want to do this? I still gotta bring Ku. It's so frustrating having to bring Ku all the time. At least for events like this. And a lot of events it's no problem, but events like this it's a bit of an issue because he gives no bonus drop, so... Bit of an oof. Yeah, I'm not really working on Enkidu Bond. Gotta get Ku to Bond 15, man. Alright, does anyone useful give the log boost? Because a caster is like the least useful thing ever here. And I think like all casters give the log boost. What does Gil give? Gil gives the log boost, but this is my main account, and my Gil is 111 and has not done his third skill upgrade, because that's how we still have the dragon. Why does Gil have to be like the only other thing that has a log boost? Okay, Imia's got a log boost. That's okay, we can make that work. I might make this easier on myself and not worry so much about bringing the gold CE. Because I feel I have enough of the gold mat that if I don't bring the gold boost, I don't really care. So I might try to at least give Imia and Ku some CEs that'll make this faster. We'll give it to her, Nash. We'll let her have the gold CE. I just do K-scope, honestly. If only I could do a Rosh! I could just Rosh the first wave and then like that'd be pretty smooth, but okay, we'll go with regular mash. We're not doing the Buster card thing at all, and so I'll just have the battery. Yeah, because the skill got buffed twice is why his skill is orange. Wait, did this stage even drop bronze mat? I don't think it did. Oh wait, that's not my CE. That's the support. Excuse me. Might give Ku more starting MP than that. This is still not going to be a super fast clear. Yeah, we'll do some Genshin later. I'll probably wrap up in a little bit, and then we'll do that later. I want to do the co-op event. I don't even know what it is. I just know it exists. Huh. Maybe I should give him the damage CE. Yeah, this is the Robotnik theme from Sonic 2. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This is one of the first boss themes I ever heard as a kid. You know, I played some games and stuff before that, but they didn't have like bosses that have like their own boss theme. I played games like, you know, Lords of Magic and Mech Warrior. Those don't really have like bosses. It doesn't really work that way. That was the first time I had like I played a game that had like a boss like that. And I've always liked the theme, so obviously there's no nostalgia element, but I've always liked this theme. It's pretty good. Fits Robotnik really well. I'm hoping you're allowed to play with people that you pick for the co-op event, but it might be one of those things you just queue up for and you get random people. I don't know how they're gonna do it, because obviously they're aware some people don't have friends in the game, so I had to add in the game there to make it not depressing. You know, so it might be just like an automated thing. I don't know. Actually, though, I feel like I really feel this is something I think, you know, is a problem in the world. I think a lot of people do struggle to have friends, and it's because it's harder to get friends, like real friends, than like ever in the way the world is, like with social media and everything. It's like harder to make friends than ever. And I think people, it's like a double whammy, because they're sad because they don't have friends, and then they feel like a loser because they don't have friends, right? And so it's like extra bad. But I really don't think you're a loser because you don't have friends, because it is legitimately difficult to make friends in the modern world. Like, it really is. I'm very lucky that I have friends that I do, because it's like, it's not easy to like connect with people like that. Like, even if you run into someone that you probably would connect with really well, it's not gonna be in a circumstance where you actually get to know each other, right? It's really easy to make acquaintances. It's really easy to make acquaintances in the modern world. And that's nice. You can meet, you can talk to people from all kinds of walks of life and learn from them where you otherwise wouldn't, and that's great. But it's very difficult to make really deep connections, I think, in the modern world now. It's especially for certain people, like depending on like really your chances are in like school, like you know, public school, and like your work, but some work environments don't actually lead to that, right? So I think it's really difficult to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people, there's like a stigma there's a huge stigma to, like, you know, being, oh, you're a loser, you don't have friends, right? And that makes it extra hard to deal with, right? So it's a real problem. But yeah, I legitimately, I do not think people are losers just because they don't have friends, because it really is hard to make friends, like, very much so. It's not really about being taught social skills, though I do think a lot of people are grown up in environments now where they don't get good social skills, but I don't think it's really that. It's like we don't have... The world doesn't operate like it used to, right? We used to be thrust into cooperation with other human beings, if we like it or not, right? Because the elements were so much more difficult to deal with. The kind of work that was demanded of people involved a lot of cooperation and stuff. It was kind of like humans got thrown into the mix if they liked it or not, you know, with some very few exceptions. That's just not the modern world. Right? That's not how the modern world is anymore. You know, it's very easy to get by and not really work with other people. And if anything, there's more jobs than ever now that incentivize not working with other people, right? Like, more than ever, I think we incentivize not socializing and whatnot. And then social media and stuff, although it's not like, you know, there's good things to social media, but there are drawbacks to it, and it can kind of prevent people from getting out there, right? But, you know, again, there are good things about social media too. I'm not going to just act like it's a blanket, you know, bad thing. But, I think the combination of social media being like a band-aid fix, and then, you know, just the way our schools are now, the way our jobs are now, and all those things. Yeah, I know Emiya loops, by the way. And we're not working with Mozart or Hohenheim or Castoria, right? We're not doing nothing. The 10-hit AoE is pretty good. I like it though because there's still reasons to use this Buster, right? Because sometimes the looping is irrelevant, and you might have something like Merlin on the team or whatever, and you also can't keep it art forever anyway, right? So there's a reason to kind of go back and forth, which is actually really fun gameplay. I think Emiya's pretty fun now. I thought he was kind of fun before, but I think Emiya is a really good and fun 4-star now. Like, he's awesome. Oh my god, 3,000 health. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's a 7-turn because we're using nothing but bonus bullshit. Like, if you want a 3-turn loop with Emiya, you absolutely can. It's not even hard to do. Like, literally, you summon your friends like Castoria, and then you can use basic stuff like, you know, Asclepius and shit like that. Like, it's really easy to do it. Like, you don't keep the art up forever, but you don't need to. I don't need the CE drops that are XP because you get them like candy out of FP summons. Any Nobukatsu's with the silver. Well, that one's got a silver one. Yeah, he's the first servant that's gotten a double upgrade. I think that's going to be a rarity. I don't think it's going to be common, but hopefully we get, you know, I don't know, a double buff for Sanson's NP or Hyde's NP. Hyde needs a double NP buff so bad, and then so does Medea. Holy shit, Medea. Arash makes everything easy to 3 turns. Like, he's kind of good like that. Like, obviously, if I was trying to do this really fast, you know, I would be changing my team pretty dramatically, but, this team has 2 objectives. Get as much bonus drop as possible, but then also include Ku. Because if I was trying to get as much bonus drop as possible, Ku would not be on the team, right? Ku shouldn't be on this team no matter what, especially the front row. But because, I want Ku to get, you know, as much spawn as possible because he's literally the only servant in the entire game I care about that on. I bring him in every single team pretty much no matter what, outside of like soloing or whatever. Like if I'm farming, Ku's on the team, period. I don't care how much trouble that makes. Like, because sometimes, most of the time I put him in the back row, right? But sometimes, in this case, in my back row is things with level 1 Nobukatsus and shit like that, so that's no good. But, you know, sometimes when he's in the back row, it's still a problem, because maybe you need that space for, like, Arash, you know, cycling and Shingon or whatever, or you need that space for other bonus servants, because, you know, Ku is not always a bonus servant. Like, right now, it's obviously making problems, but I don't care. It's like, I'm not doing stages with him not being on the team, because, it's top priority to get Ku's bond up, so. Well, it's top priority in that if I'm farming, I'm always making sure I'm doing it. I'm not like going to be like sitting here throwing apples at the screen when there's no event going on, trying to get Ku to bond 15 as fast as possible. I'm not doing that, but when I am playing, I'm making sure I'm working towards bond 15 too. And then I will never work towards bond 15 on another character ever. I don't care if even if they added something to bond 15, don't give a shit. You know, I should bring a Mystic Code that helps him crit right there, so I could potentially kill. Honestly, the one that's really fucking the team up is Mash. She's not doing anything, and she, like, if she could be a servant that would, like, give us crit damage or some, like, you know, extra punch there, that would be, like, the most helpful. But because, you know, and she could give us art up, because the art up would make the NP hit harder, and then more refund, and you know, shit like that. But yeah, Mash don't do jack shit here. Wait, why is Mash on the team? She doesn't give a log. I brought her because she gave Clay boost. We're not doing Clay anymore. Fuck. Oops. Yeah, I forgot. She was literally on the team because she gives a Clay bonus. This stage does not drop Clay. This stage drops the logs. I'm glad I realized that. Thought I was being meta with the drop bonus, and I actually wasn't. So I was screwing myself over for no reason. Oh, it won't make that much of a difference. Whatever I put on there will just be like one more log, but still. But I want to see. It'll have to be a caster, because caster is like the only generic thing I have that, or Gil. My Gil may be scuffed as hell on this account, but I might be able to use him just like clear the first wave or something. It doesn't have his third skill upgrade. That's not gonna really work. Use Shin-Gong. Do the Buster one. That doesn't. Well, no, I could give him the Buster up for the second NP. That's okay, I guess. You have to keep Shin-Gong alive, though. I know this is gonna get weird. Yeah, I guess I could put Nobukatsu in the front. You know, a little bit. Not that much, though. I think Shin-Gong would be better because we want the battery. Because it's not like, you know, we're only gonna do the one Buster NP at the end. That's about it. Although I could have him kill himself. Well, no, I want a bonus CE on him. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't need to worry about the bonus drops for the shop. I don't know. Maybe I should just not worry about that right now. But it's kind of nice to get the shop done and then not worry about it. That seems like the better thing to do. That's a lot of logs, though. Yeah, sometimes your video feed gets messed up. You just gotta restart it, basically. What's even in this shop? I haven't looked. My god, this is a lot of I don't care. Okay, I kind of care about that a little bit. Seriously, this shop is so full of things I do not care about. But I'm obviously gonna want to get the 4-star, you know, faux items, you know. Yeah, wow. Maybe I need to start busting out regular CEs. Alright, I think I'm gonna take a break. I need to eat really badly. It's been quite a while. I think I'll come back maybe in 30 minutes or so. Play some Impact, do the co-op event. Kind of curious what that's like. But thanks for hanging out and watching me literally farm. Good God. Hopefully we won't have to do this too much longer. It'll be a lot better if we can get to the point where I don't need shop drops, because then I can just, you know, solo and, you know, mess around with shit and try to buff stack and that kind of thing. I should be doing that anyway. It's just so much more entertaining, like, try to, you know, make servants hit really hard and that kind of thing. But, yeah, let's hope this, the raids later are better. Hopefully that'll be a thing. I'm curious what the raids are going to drop, because if they drop something useful, that could actually be pretty nice, because I tell you, every once in a while when they add raids, they can end up being like lifesavers for accounts, so we shall see. Alright guys, I'm not going to raid anybody, because I'm going to be back in like 30 minutes or so, but thanks for hanging out, and peace.